Gray Television's Washington News Bureau, covering live breaking news, politics, and in-depth investigations, serving Gray's 100-plus markets, from the White House to Capitol Hill and so much more, covering issues that directly impact you.
In a blockbuster case that could impact the 2024 election,
64 Republican lawmakers from 26 different states visit the border crossing,
which is in part why some lawmakers are working to extend legislation that bridges that gap.
Thanks for joining us. You are watching Local News Live. Stay close, stay connected. The big breaking stories are best told by those who live it.
What do voters really care about? We're traveling around the country, listening to America.
I always wanted to tell stories that uplift people, but also ones that make you think. I'm Deborah Alfarone. Join me for the good side.
Gray Television's Washington News Bureau. See us on your local Gray station or follow us at Gray DC News.
Every day, stories break that get the nation talking.
These outages beginning in the early morning hours.
That's why every morning we are taking a deep dive into the big stories of the day. Now to an update on the big consumer news.
Stories directly from local reporters who know the streets and the people.
A shelter-in-place order is in effect. Authentic, unfiltered, live. Stories that impact you and your family. Local News Live.
Weekday mornings at 7 a.m. Eastern.
If you're inside, make yourself known now.
Watch Investigate TV Plus on your favorite streaming device, anytime, on demand. Investigations with real solutions.
So if you had to ballpark it, how much has this cost you?
True crime documentaries.
You've got a deadly cocktail for a murder.
And consumer watchdog reports. Stories that save you money and help your family stay safe. Search Investigate TV on your device's app store or watch now on InvestigateTV.com.
It's a painkiller that's 100 times more powerful than morphine, and the drug's maker has paid millions to doctors prescribing for profit.
I almost didn't make it.
This is what happens when a wife and mother gets hooked on opioids by a doctor prescribing for profit.
You're lucky to be alive.
Amen. Absolutely.
Tamison Witherspoon's story started in 2014 following complications from surgery. Witherspoon's doctor sent her to a pain clinic to help alleviate post-procedure pain. The doctor who signed off on her prescriptions, John Couch. According to the federal government, he was one of the highest prescribers of opioids in the country.
I've never met him.
That's crazy.
I've never met him.
How many times did you go to that office?
A whole year.
Witherspoon never met her doctor, but his nurse still gave her prescriptions for 5 different pain medications, including Subsys.
Point the nozzle into your mouth and under your tongue.
A powerful fentanyl spray meant only for cancer patients.
You don't have cancer.
I don't have cancer. I've never had cancer.
So why are you taking a cancer drug?
That's what I was prescribed. And I'm the patient. I'm not knowing. I'm just doing what I was told.
Instantly, Witherspoon says she was hooked.
I would go into episodes of, I didn't know who I was. I mean, I would be walking around with no clothes on.
The addiction tore apart her life, breaking up her marriage.
And I was so embarrassed, so ashamed from coming from being this just great neighbor, great friend, great mother, great wife, to an addict. That was so shameful, and it was what happened to my life was awful, and it didn't have to happen. It could have been avoided.
Experts say Subsys is one of the most potent drugs a doctor can prescribe.
The Subsys spray comes in doses that are so strong, one squirt could easily kill somebody who's not accustomed to taking opioids. These are lethal weapons.
Unknown to Witherspoon, while her doctor prescribed Subsys, he also received money from the drug's manufacturer, Insys Therapeutics.
Insys really sort of set a new bar for sliminess.
Over 21 months, Insys paid Couch and his partner Jilu Ran consultant and speaker fees to prescribe the drug, all totaled $271,000.
How bad were these guys?
These guys were the most egregious form of greed I have ever seen in my career.
Couch and his partner caught the attention of the DEA.
These doctors held themselves out as giving these highly addictive fentanyl products to these patients who obviously didn't need it.
The DEA launched an undercover investigation. In 7 trips to Couch and Ron's office, their undercover agent only met Couch once for 42 seconds.
All right, we'll try that first, see if that helps, okay? All right. Get you some medicine going.
The DEA says the doctor's practice was a multi-million-dollar business.
On a monthly basis, they were making in excess of $200,000. When we raided the clinic in May of 2015, we seized in excess of $13 million in property, cars, cash, bank accounts, you name it.
That included a warehouse filled with those luxury cars with personalized plates. The DEA estimates 240 people died in these doctors' care.
In 31 years nearly with DEA, I've never seen anything like this.
Last year, a judge sentenced Couch to 20 years in prison, Ron 21.
We took those 2 pieces of garbage off the planet, and they're in prison. All right, and that's where they belong because they've harmed a lot of people.
Creating addicts and a death toll, all while raking in hundreds of thousands of dollars in speaker fees from the drug's maker.
What a speaker program was a complete boondoggle. All it was a way to kick money back to the doctors.
Couch and Ron's share was a small part of the INSIS pot of money. Over a 4-year period, INSIS paid more than 13,000 doctors $18.7 million in food, travel, and consultant fees. The FDA has strict rules that INSIS can only market Subsys as a drug for cancer pain. But nearly half the payments went to doctors who don't specialize in cancer or pain fields. In that group, psychologists, sports medicine doctors, and even a marriage therapist. Florida doctor Edward Lubin doesn't deny he received $160,000 from INSIS. In an email about his paid speeches, Lubin stated he didn't advocate the use of Subsys for non-cancer patients. According to Medicare data, Lubin wrote the 3rd highest amount of Subsys prescriptions in the country. Lubin would not answer if he ever prescribed Subsys for non-cancer patients. Florida anesthesiologist Bart Gatz took $230,000 of INSIS money for consulting and meals. Gatz prescribed 453 Subsys claims. His attorney told us even if Gatz prescribed for non-cancerous ailments, he did nothing wrong. Legally, a doctor can prescribe Subsys to non-cancer patients, but they must complete required FDA training for the drug. Gatz's attorney would not say if his client did. Lubin says he did complete the training.
Located on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, I am Dr. Jeffrey Goldstein, a licensed and board-certified physician.
INSIS paid New York doctor Jeffrey L. Goldstein $215,000. Goldstein wrote 304 Subsys prescriptions. His website says Dr. Goldstein has extensive training in nutritional and cosmetic medicine. Goldstein works at a med spa with another doctor, Todd Schliffstein.
Other med spa services we offer include cosmetic injectables, cosmetic fillers, and a full line of laser skincare services.
That med spa has posted dozens of pictures of cosmetic procedures on Facebook, including a patient's butt augmentation. But still, INSIS paid Schliffstein $146,000 to market the cancer drug, Subsys. In 3 years, Schliffstein wrote 91 Subsys claims. The Subsys prescribed by Goldstein and Schliffstein cost $5.5 million, about $14,000 per prescription.
This company, in my view, went beyond what they should do lawfully. They helped to create this problem.
Last year, the state of North Carolina filed a complaint against INSIS, accusing the company of pushing the drug to non-cancer patients. In that complaint, the Attorney General alleges a Subsys executive told a sales rep doctors do not need to be good speakers, they need to write a lot of Subsys prescriptions.
They were rewarding doctors with payments in order to get them to prescribe more. That's wrong. That's not lawful.
It makes Tamison Witherspoon fume. The doctor prescribing her a potentially killer drug took money from the drug company.
The only reason that I was ever prescribed Subsys is so somebody can get rich and get paid. That's it. Not because I need it.
In November of 2014, she checked herself into rehab and got clean. Today she's engaged and says she's turned her life around. but will never forget the crippling addiction and the doctor who put her on that path.
You mean you got paid for ruining my life? You got paid for destroying my life? You got paid for all the hell that I had to go through? That hurts. But you move on.
INSIS suspended the sepsis speaker program. You'll hear more about the doctors we mentioned in that story, as the questions we raised also caught the attention of investigators. That's coming up later. But up next, if he's not here, who's writing his prescriptions? Weeks after we made our trip to Lewisburg, Tennessee, the feds show up at the office of the nation's highest prescriber. Licensed to pill gets results. Coming up. The cornerstone of Investigate TV is investigative journalism. We want to get answers. We want to teach you something.
We always try to give viewers a takeaway, something they can learn from a story.
What is the solution here? Every story we air, we strive to be able to show that.
There are things that affect our homes, that affect our families, that affect our health, that we are learning every day from these stories.
Do you think people are dying?
Should this be better regulated? Should I be concerned? Do you recall when you became aware of that law?
The beauty of this show is that we have a team of reporters all across the country.
From very diverse backgrounds.
The public has a right to know.
How big of a problem is that?
Should they be revoking these certifications?
I think viewers are looking for something different, something fresh, something that feels helpful to them.
And it allows us to tell the best of the best stories and show them to you every day.
Local news live.
From the nation's capital, I'm Deborah Alfarone.
I'm Brian Pierce.
And I'm Rashida Kaba.
I'm Graham Olkins.
And I'm Camila Rueda.
Breaking stories.
There's an absolute chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
We are following a breaking update out of Kansas City, Missouri.
Our station, WBTV, out of Charlotte, has live coverage.
3 officers have been killed.
What we do know, 6 are currently unaccounted for.
Big events.
Today is the day.
This is unbelievable.
I am just speechless. What are voters looking at? Live outside the El Paso County Recorder's office.
Tracking some of these congressional races tonight.
Direct from local reporters.
All over social media.
This used to be a bar.
Live where the story is.
And then all of a sudden the rain started going sideways.
Now we can take a look at the upper level flow.
Unmatched coverage.
Stay for human rights!
Investigate TV tackles the tough topics.
What happened to my life was awful.
When your health is compromised, we investigate.
They are really drug dealers in white coats.
Corporate greed exposed.
How do you trust them to run this program?
The powerful held accountable with in-depth journalism led by award-winning journalist Lee Zurich. We're your watchdog. Search Investigate TV on your Roku device. Download it now.
Federal investigators raided the office of the nation's top prescriber of opioids. That raid took place 1 week after we profiled that doctor from a small Tennessee town.
He's a fabulous doctor. I see nothing, no reason for him to be in trouble.
Rose Thomason was shocked to learn at least 12 federal agents in a rented mini storage truck showed up at Murphy's Tennessee office. The DEA, FBI, and U.S. Attorney's Healthcare Fraud Unit executed a search warrant. That search warrant is sealed, but they seized dozens of boxes of records. Thomason drove from Alabama to Murphy's Tennessee office. Her 3 o'clock appointment had been canceled.
I don't know why they would even come here. I mean, he doesn't keep anything here. He doesn't keep drugs or anything.
Murphy's attorney had no comment. The U.S. Attorney's Office would only confirm they executed a search warrant on the office. Still to come on License to Pill.
That should be dead.
Is that a conflict?
I certainly think so.
Doctors prescribing for profit with little oversight. Our investigation might show you why. It's next on License to Pill.
Every day, stories break that get the nation talking.
These outages beginning in the early morning hours.
That's why every morning we are taking a deep dive into the big stories of the day. Now to an update on the big consumer news.
Stories directly from local reporters who know the streets and the people.
That shelter-in-place order is in effect. Authentic, unfiltered, live. Stories that impact you and your family. Local News Live.
Weekday mornings at 7 a.m. Eastern.
If you're inside, make yourself known now.
Watch Investigate TV Plus on your favorite streaming device, anytime, on demand. Investigations with real solutions.
So if you had to ballpark it, how much has this cost you?
True crime documentaries.
She's got a deadly cocktail for a murder.
And consumer watchdog reports. Stories that save you money and help your family stay safe. Search Investigate TV on your device's app store or watch now on InvestigateTV.com.
Gray Television's Washington News Bureau, covering live breaking news, politics, and in-depth investigations, serving Gray's 100-plus markets, from the White House to Capitol Hill and so much more, covering issues that directly impact you.
In a blockbuster case that could impact the 2024 election,
64 Republican lawmakers from 26 different states visit the border crossing,
which is in part why some lawmakers are working to extend legislation that bridges that gap.
Thanks for joining us. You are watching Local News Live. Stay close, stay connected. The big breaking stories are best told by those who live it.
What do voters really care about? We're traveling around the country, listening to America.
I always wanted to tell stories that uplift people, but also ones that make you think. I'm Deborah Alfarone. Join me for the good side.
Gray Television's Washington News Bureau. See us on your local Gray station or follow us at Gray DC News.
For more on our series, go to InvestigateTV.com. There you can also find contact information for the Investigate TV team.
Doctors are prescribing opioids so dangerous the federal government requires additional certification. But we discovered Big Pharma is administering regulatory control with the government's blessing.
Headlines broadcasting big penalties.
McKesson has agreed to pay the U.S. government a record $150 million fine.
And repeat problems.
McKesson settled, paying more than $13 million in fines.
During the country's deadly opioid epidemic, the nation's largest drug distributor faces mounting lawsuits, sanctions, a company in the headlines for the wrong reasons.
McKesson Corporation overcharged them for drugs supplied to Medicaid patients.
But while the federal government has accused McKesson Corporation of suspicious business practices,
it sort of shocks your conscience.
In 2012, the same federal government entrusted McKesson to begin overseeing a program responsible for regulating whether doctors properly prescribe the most dangerous opioids on the market.
Does that really make sense?
No, it's given the inmates the keys to the to the jail doors.
About 7 years ago, the FDA approved what's called the Turf REMS program to prevent misuse and abuse of fast-acting fentanyl drugs, which can be up to 100 times more powerful than morphine. The Turf REMS website says these drugs are indicated only for the management of breakthrough pain in adult cancer patients who are already taking opioids.
The purpose of the Turf REMS program is to make sure that these drugs stay only with those that it's indicated for and it's proven safe for. And that has not happened. And having McKesson oversee it certainly is not going to serve that purpose.
Attorney Rick Hollowell calls the program a sham. Hollowell's client, Dina Demarest, may help explain why.
That should be dead. I never really said it out loud.
Following a minor surgery, a family friend referred Demarest to New York City doctor Jeffrey Goldstein, who prescribed her a powerful fentanyl spray for cancer pain, Subsys. Demarest never had cancer.
Did he tell you it's primarily for cancer patients?
Never.
Goldstein steadily increased the dosage amount to the highest allowed, 1,600 micrograms.
From what he was giving me, people died from a lot less.
Subsys is one of 10 drugs in the Turf REMS program. Program guidelines require doctors and their patients to both review and sign this form, which warns them of the seriousness of the Turf REMS drug.
Have you ever seen a form like this?
No.
You've never seen this? Can you look at it for me? You never signed this form?
No.
That formed part of the program administered by McKesson. McKesson declined our request for an on-camera interview. They wouldn't tell us if Goldstein or any other doctor has been sanctioned. In an email, McKesson did write the requirements of a REMS program are developed jointly by the manufacturers and the FDA, with ultimate approval resting with the FDA. The FDA also declined our request for an interview. The FDA admits to a hands-off approach to the program. They don't even know the names of the doctors Turf REMS certified.
You know, something's strange, and it's not the normal business that you're used to.
Bill Renton spent nearly 50 years in drug enforcement, including a stretch as special agent in charge at the DEA.
I really don't know how Big Pharma got involved in managing a program that's designed to basically control Big Pharma.
Is that a conflict?
I certainly think so.
Doctors who want to prescribe drugs in this program need to complete an 11-question quiz, but it's an open book test with the answers easily found in this 9-page handout.
Is it safe to say you don't need a medical degree to pass this open book test?
No, you don't need a medical degree.
It's pretty easy.
You probably need a high school education and the ability to read it and answer the questions. It's very easy. And it's nothing complex.
The FDA is aware of serious concerns about drugs prescribed in this program. Its own website shows harmful reactions from patients given these potent drugs to treat relatively minor medical issues like migraines.
I don't think anybody treats migraines with morphine, much less fentanyl.
On McKesson's watch, the FDA's website shows doctors also prescribe these powerful drugs for groin pain, oral pain, and more.
Can you ever imagine fentanyl being used for a headache?
No.
A muscle spasm?
No.
Neck
I can't.
pain?
No.
With McKesson administering the program in a 3-year period, Turf REMS brand name prescriptions in Medicare more than doubled. Nearly 65% of the top 100 Turf REMS prescribers were family doctors, nurse practitioners, and other non-cancer, non-pain doctors.
McKesson had no interest in shutting people down from getting this drug because they supply the drug.
These Turf REMS drugs cost big money. Dina Demarest Insurance Company spent up to $36,000 a month on her prescription, helping bring in big profits for drug companies like McKesson, ranked number 5 in the Fortune 500.
This market has been dominated by McKesson,
a company also in the headlines for making large returns for investors.
More than 239% over the last 5 years. In short, McKesson is a powerhouse.
And high-ranking leaders.
At the top is John Hammergren. He's the CEO of McKesson Corp. That's a healthcare company. He makes a whopping $131 million a year.
A company handed the keys to an opioid oversight program with the blessing of the federal government that also fined McKesson a record $150 million for fueling the opioid epidemic.
Federal government should step up, or the medical boards or the pharmacy boards should step up and try and take over this program.
After our story aired, U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy questioned the FDA about the program and whether the oversight had been enough. Cassidy said the FDA, quote, conceded. The Louisiana senator is also a medical doctor. He says our story called into question how the program and these doctors are being monitored.
Because of your report and bringing it to our attention, we contacted the FDA. They are going to put together a public advisory committee, bringing together stakeholders to see how they can make that REMS system work better, entirely in response to the investigative reporting you've done and then our inquiry with FDA.
The FDA began its intensive review of the program in early August. Cassidy says the result should be a tighter oversight of these powerful drugs.
There should be an audit, both of the prescribers, the doctors prescribing, the pharmacists filling, as well as McKesson. And that audit should be on a periodic basis to make sure that a drug as powerful as this is being used appropriately.
Lax oversight by the FDA and McKesson allowed exploitation by some doctors, like Jeffrey Goldstein and Todd Schliffstein, the 2 New York doctors we profiled earlier. After our report, a New York City grand jury indicted both doctors for prescribing a powerful narcotic in exchange for money, expensive dinners, and a $4,000 trip to a strip club. According to the Manhattan U.S. Attorney, they engaged in a malignant scheme to prescribe fentanyl in exchange for bribes. While prescribing this dangerous drug, Schliffstein and Goldstein took money from the drug's maker, Insys Therapeutics. The indictment tells a story of Insys taking Schliffstein and Goldstein to that Manhattan strip club, where the pharma company spent about $4,100 on a private room, drinks, and lap dances for the two doctors. The indictment says that outing and the tens of thousands of dollars in speaker fees led the two doctors to increase their Subsys prescriptions. The feds arrested both doctors. If found guilty, Goldstein and Schliffstein could be sentenced to more than 30 years each in federal prison. Goldstein and Schliffstein did not return our request for a comment. In a statement, Insys wrote the company continues striving to take responsibility for inappropriate actions of some former employees and has invested significant resources over the last several years to establish an effective compliance program and build an organizational culture of high ethical standards. Still to come on License to Pill.
We trust those folks. We trust them, that we put their lives in their hands.
The feds are looking at two more doctors we profiled. Details next.
Every day, stories break that get the nation talking.
These outages beginning in the early morning hours.
That's why every morning we are taking a deep dive into the big stories of the day. Now to an update on the big consumer news.
Stories directly from local reporters who know the streets and the people.
A shelter-in-place order is in effect. Authentic, unfiltered, live. Stories that impact you and your family. Local News Live.
Weekday mornings at 7 a.m. Eastern.
If you're inside, make yourself known now.
Watch Investigate TV Plus on your favorite streaming device, anytime, on demand. Investigations with real solutions.
So if you had to ballpark it, how much has this cost you?
True crime documentaries.
You've got a deadly cocktail or a murder.
And consumer watchdog reports. Stories that save you money and help your family stay safe. Search Investigate TV on your device's app store or watch now on InvestigateTV.com.
Gray Television's Washington News Bureau, covering live breaking news, politics, and in-depth investigations, serving Gray's 100-plus markets, from the White House to Capitol Hill and so much more, covering issues that directly impact you.
In a blockbuster case that could impact the 2024 election,
64 Republican lawmakers from 26 different states visit the border crossing,
which is in part why some lawmakers are working to extend legislation that bridges that gap.
Thanks for joining us. You are watching Local News Live. Stay close, stay connected. The big breaking stories are best told by those who live it.
What do voters really care about? We're traveling around the country, listening to America.
I always wanted to tell stories that uplift people, but also ones that make you think. I'm Deborah Alfarone. Join me for the good side.
Gray Television's Washington News Bureau. See us on your local Gray station or follow us at Gray DC News.
The cornerstone of Investigate TV is investigative journalism. We want to get answers. We want to teach you something.
We always try to give viewers a takeaway, something they can learn from a story.
What is the solution here? Every story we air, we strive to be able to show that.
There are things that affect our homes, that affect our families, that affect our health, that we are learning every day from these stories.
Do you think people are dying?
Should this be better regulated? Should I be concerned? Do you recall when you became aware of that law?
The beauty of this show is that we have a team of reporters all across the country.
From very diverse backgrounds.
The public has a right to know. How big of a problem is that?
Should they be revoking these certifications?
I think viewers are looking for something different, something fresh, something that feels helpful to them.
And it allows us to tell the best of the best stories and show them to you every day. The federal government accuses several doctors featured in our License to Pill series of accepting kickbacks in return for prescribing a dangerous drug. According to a civil case recently unsealed, the providers fraudulently billed taxpayers nearly $70 million. Patients clinging to life.
You're lucky to be alive.
Amen. Absolutely.
Near-death experiences, the product of greed.
What if my kids would have lost me because of him? trying to pad his pockets.
InvestigateTV has questioned whether several providers have improperly prescribed Subsys, a drug 100 times more powerful than morphine, only meant for cancer patients. These doctors took money from the drug's maker, Insys Therapeutics. Insys labeled it consultant or speaker fees to help promote the drug.
The problem is that you have profiteers that are working within this specific realm, i.e. doctors, pharmacies, and the pharmaceutical company, who are taking advantage of the system.
The doctors who improperly prescribed Subsys to Tamison Witherspoon and Dina Demarest have been charged, but other doctors InvestigateTV analyzed remain licensed. A recently unsealed federal lawsuit details the depth of the alleged fraud and the cost to taxpayers. We told you about Florida anesthesiologist Bart Gatz. He took $230,000 of Insys money for consulting and meals. Since 2012, his Subsys prescriptions cost Medicare $3.3 million. The complaint alleges in 2013, 2 Insys executives took Gatz to an Arizona strip club. Days later, Gatz sent a text message to one executive writing, "Thank you for the best weekend in years." According to Medicare data, another Florida doctor, Edward Lubin, wrote the 3rd highest amount of Subsys prescriptions in the country. Lubin received $160,000 from Insys in speaker fees. According to the complaint, since 2013, Lubin filed as much as $4.1 million of Subsys claims. The government calls many of his speeches shams, alleging most of his speaking events were conducted at pharmacies, even though pharmacists cannot prescribe Subsys. The U.S. government joined 5 former Insys employees in accusing Gatz, Lubin, and 18 other medical professionals of accepting payments from the company and billing the government about $70 million. As of June, 11 doctors named in the civil lawsuit, including Gatz and Lubin, have not been charged with a crime. In fact, InvestigateTV found about 85% of all doctors who received at least $50,000 from Insys still have an active medical license.
That's scary.
Randy Hood represents several patients suing doctors involved in the Insys speaker program.
Unfortunately, patients are the victims. And when I say victims, I don't mean that like, oh, feel sorry for them or oh, I'm so sorry for them. I mean, they were unwittingly duped into taking a medication. Many of these, not all, but many were unwittingly duped into taking a medication that's highly addictive and basically caused destruction of their lives for a very long period of time, and some people died.
Should this be regulated more?
The question is, who should regulate it?
Dr. Eric Campbell has spent 20 years studying the financial relationship between doctors and drug makers.
There's a wealth of data showing that doctors who receive payments from drug companies for promotional speaking are significantly more likely to be heavy users of those companies' products and services.
Which is legal, as long as the payments don't entice doctors to write more prescriptions. Campbell says about 85% of the doctors in the U.S. accept payments from drug companies.
Payments many times are simply nothing more than a sham for a kind of kickback that doctors receive. And that's problematic because in that case, the doctor's financial interest may have superseded his or her primary concern, which is for the health and welfare of their patients.
This was an intentional decision by this company.
Randy Hood represents a young mother whose doctor treated hip pain with the cancer drug Subsys. It left her mostly toothless and suffering from stroke-like symptoms. The doctors moved his practice to New York.
We trust those folks. We trust them. That we put their lives in their hands, and he put money in his pocket over her safety.
Gatz and Lubin didn't respond to our requests for comment. License to Pill is an investigative project that's taken nearly a year to research and report. The Investigate TV team analyzed millions of records, looking at the discipline, court, and prescription history of thousands of doctors. License to Pill showed regulators beholden to Big Pharma as the opioid crisis claims more and more of our neighbors, our family members. The DEA has cracked down on some of these doctors, but many still practice, still prescribe, unchecked. A recent Inspector General report conceded even states that have done the most to try and curb the opioid crisis are still losing the battle. A battle the U.S. Attorney General called the deadliest drug crisis in U.S. history. Thanks for watching this Investigate TV special, License to Pill. The cornerstone of Investigate TV is investigative journalism. We want to get answers. We want to teach you something.
We always try to give viewers a takeaway, something they can learn from a story.
What is the solution here? Every story we air, we strive to be able to show that.
There are things that affect our homes, that affect our families, that affect our health, that we are learning every day from these stories.
Do you think people are dying?
Should this be better regulated? Should I be concerned? Do you recall when you became aware of that law?
The beauty of this show is that we have a team of reporters all across the country.
From very diverse backgrounds.
The public has a right to know.
How big of a problem is that?
Should they be revoking these certifications?
I think viewers are looking for something different, something fresh, something that feels helpful to them.
And allows us to tell the best of the best stories and show them to you every day. Hello and welcome to Investigate TV. I'm Lee Zurich. Today we'll take a look at what you need to know about cryptocurrency and how to avoid work from home scam. But first, a law meant to give low-income people more access to healthy food isn't being followed. Our team found that's because the agency in charge has taken years to put the new law into action. We looked into why there's a holdup in an attempt to bridge the great health divide. Why is it taking so long for the federal government to fix this?
It's a really good question.
A program funded by your tax dollars is designed to help needy families get fresh, healthy food from stores that accept food stamps or SNAP benefits. But as our undercover cameras went down the aisles of rural mini-marts, gas stations, and dollar stores, we found shops selling karaoke machines and advertising lifelike baby dolls, all taking government dollars without offering much when it comes to nutritious choices.
Why would a business want to accept SNAP benefits?
3 reasons. Money, money, money. SNAP is big business.
But to tell you how this story impacts people, meet Edith Ruffin, who is the only source of fresh food in one rural area.
I love what he had me doing. I feel like I'm just in a good place in my life.
Ruffin grew up in Pine Hill in western Alabama. She says the last grocery store there closed 30 years ago. All that's left, a dollar store and 2 gas stations.
Well, that would be a good thing if the gas stations would have vegetables and fruits and what have you, but they don't, they don't.
Our undercover camera visited those remaining stores and found what Ruffin sees every day, a selection of canned and frozen foods, but no fresh fruit or vegetables or meats. Ruffin drives 2 hours a day round trip from her home in Selma, Alabama, to work at her hometown food bank that happens to be operating out of an old grocery store.
I enjoy what I'm doing, yeah. Sometimes I overdo it. My daughter tells me, Mama, you create work. You never know when to sit down.
Without Ruffin, many residents in this county wouldn't have any access to fresh, healthy food.
But here at the food bank, we're able to give them potatoes and, tomatoes. And we've been blessed with a 3-door cooler now, so I can have dairy stuff.
Rural Americans almost anywhere face the same issue. Small convenience stores are the only shops around in towns where many people are on benefits. Many of these stores, though, make big money from food stamps. In the last fiscal year, $3.8 billion. Around 245,000 supermarkets, convenience, and other stores accept food stamps. Many are your typical grocery stores. But while the USDA website says the program allows needy families to purchase healthy food, our undercover investigation at other stores in the Delta shows that's virtually impossible. We found stores with a moldy lemon and expired eggs, many shelves filled with candy and chips, some specializing in beer or liquor, what researcher Mari Gallagher calls a fringe store.
A fringe store primarily specializes in things like, I'm not against alcohol, necessarily, but, or I like a snack now and then, I like a donut occasionally, but they primarily specialize in things, if they're food items, they tend to be snacks, soda, chips, Slim Jims, maybe they have some milk. Do they have skim milk? Do they have fat-free? They might not.
To accept food stamps, most stores need to have at least 3 different food varieties in 4 major categories: fruits and vegetables, meat and seafood, dairy, and bread and cereal. But even meeting those requirements, a store isn't helping provide a balanced diet. And that's what lawmakers appeared to fix. But 7 years later, that fix hasn't happened. A 2014 law passed by Congress and on the books today strengthened the requirement for stores. It forced them to have more healthy food on the shelves. The important change, instead of requiring just 3 varieties of food for each category, the new law required 7.
This was an achievable improvement in terms of pushing stores to offer more, and our members wanted that.
But when the USDA put the law into effect, there was specific wording many lawmakers and convenience stores said was impractical.
They wrote them in a way that nobody understood or thought made sense.
Stores couldn't count things like bacon and deli ham as 2 types of food, just one, since they're both from the same animal. In a category like meat, the options for getting 7 choices run out pretty quickly. So in 2017, Congress pulled its own mandate until the USDA fixed that. But to date,
it seems like Congress wanted to fix it so we wouldn't do an investigative report on something like this. It seems like you want this fixed, but we're waiting for years for something to happen and nothing's happened.
That's exactly right. I think everybody agrees this ought to be fixed. It would be helpful if the regulations were finalized so that more and more stores would get nudged along in the right direction, but we'll have to wait for the Department of Agriculture for that.
The Department of Agriculture declined our request for an interview and said in an email they're still determining the next steps. Meantime, Gallagher has more criticism of the program. She says the standards are too low, but there's also an issue with compliance. The federal government admits it generally checks stores when they apply for the program and may visit again every 5 years. So while requirements hang in limbo, Gallagher hopes enforcement can be prioritized, though she says the USDA inspectors don't have enough funding to stay on top and help bridge the great health divide.
I think instead of doing lots of things, we should do fewer things and do them really well. So one thing would be, let's put some money together for compliance, because we all eat as part of the human condition, and food and access to food should be a conscious part of our infrastructure maintenance.
Our team reached out to the convenience stores in Pine Hill. They didn't want to comment. The Dollar General corporate office said it is planning to expand its fresh food options to 10,000 stores in the next several years. This story is part of our efforts to address health disparities in rural America, particularly in Appalachia and the Mississippi Delta. Bridging the Great Health Divide receives funding from Google and was announced as part of the Google News Initiative project. After the break, cryptocurrency. It's getting more and more popular, but there are risks. Next, what you need to know before you invest. And if you're looking for more investigative reporting on demand, download our streaming apps on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV.
Local news live.
From the nation's capital, I'm Deborah Alfarone.
I'm Ryan Pierce.
And I'm Rashida Kaba.
I'm Graham Olkins.
And I'm Camila Rueda.
Breaking stories.
There's an absolute chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
We are following a breaking update out of Kansas City, Missouri.
Our station, WBTV, out of Charlotte, has live coverage.
3 officers have been killed.
What we do know, 6 are currently unaccounted for.
Big events.
Today is the day.
This is unbelievable.
I am just speechless. What are voters looking at? Live outside the El Paso County Recorder's office.
Tracking some of these congressional races tonight.
Direct from local reporters.
All over social media. This used to be a bar.
Live where the story is.
And then all of a sudden the rain started going sideways.
Now we can take a look at the upper level flow.
Unmatched coverage.
Pay for human rights!
The cornerstone of InvestigateTV is investigative journalism. We want to get answers. We want to teach you something.
We always try to give viewers a takeaway, something they can learn from a story.
What is the solution here? Every story we air, we strive to be able to show that.
There are things that affect our homes, that affect our families, that affect our health, that we are learning every day from these stories.
Do you think people are dying?
Should this be better regulated? Should I be concerned? Do you recall when you became aware of that law?
The beauty of this show is that we have a team of reporters all across the country.
From very diverse backgrounds.
The public has a right to know.
How big of a problem is that?
Should they be revoking these certifications?
I think viewers are looking for something different, something fresh, something that feels helpful to them.
And it allows us to tell the best of the best stories and show them to you every day. Cryptocurrency is getting a lot of attention right now. Experts say do your research before you buy. But the Federal Trade Commission tells us some people are losing big time from this popular way of investing. Sandra Jones explains why in this consumer crackdown.
The Federal Trade Commission says cryptocurrency investment scams have skyrocketed during the pandemic. But people are taking a hit. Instead of getting a windfall of cash, scammers are cashing in too. If you invest in anything, it comes with risks, but getting scammed shouldn't be one of them. The Federal Trade Commission says many people are being lured to phony websites that look legit, offering opportunities for investing in or mining cryptocurrencies, such as Bitcoin. They say scammers will use fake testimonials and promise huge guaranteed returns. The websites may even look like your investment is growing, but you end up getting nothing.
Investment scams are as old as investments, and scammers tend to use more or less the same type of playbook.
Christopher Leach is an attorney with the Federal Trade Commission's Bureau of Consumer Protection. According to the agency's complaint database, since October of 2020 to March of this year, nearly 7,000 people have lost more than $80 million to cryptocurrency investment scams.
The primary victims of cryptocurrency scams are actually people in their 20s and 30s. This is our complaint data shows that they're 5 times as likely as individuals over 50 years old to be victims of these scams.
Imposters may even pretend to be celebrities and offer giveaways.
So if someone saying that they're Elon Musk comes to you and says, if you give me $5 in cryptocurrency, you win a chance to get $1,000 in cryptocurrency, that's likely a scam.
Leach says if you're thinking about investing in cryptocurrency, do your homework. Search online for the company and cryptocurrency name. Be wary of guarantees and big promises. And anyone who says you have to pay by cryptocurrency, wire transfer, or gift card, it's not legit. Now, another thing to remember, once you give away cash, it's nearly impossible to get it back. If you're a victim of a cryptocurrency investment scam, report it to the Federal Trade Commission, the Attorney General's Office, and the Better Business Bureau. Your case could result in legal action against those scammers.
Sandra, this is interesting because, we do stories on this kind of scams all the time, and typically they target older folks, but you mentioned this is targeting folks, people in their, 20s or 30s. Is there any explanation for that?
Yeah, that's interesting, Lee. Well, the FTC says it's likely because these scams are being advertised on the internet and through social media accounts, right? In which this age group frequently uses. So scammers know this and will get them that way.
Obviously, it's hard to get your money back from these types of scams, but the FTC has managed to do that, right?
Well, they sure have, Lee. There was actually a case in 2018 that we found called the Bitcoin funding team case, which was part of a multi-level marketing scheme where people, would send money up the chain with promises of getting huge returns. The FTC filed a lawsuit and settled the case and got thousands of dollars back to victims. So that's good news there.
Yes, it is. All right, Sandra. It seems like easy money, but mystery box job offers aren't worth their weight. Coming up, what happened when our reporter went to track down one company. Read more of our national investigative team's work now or anytime at InvestigateTV.com.
Gray Television's Washington News Bureau, covering live breaking news, politics, and in-depth investigations. Serving Gray's 100-plus markets, from the White House to Capitol Hill and so much more. Covering issues that directly impact you.
In a blockbuster case that could impact the 2024 election,
64 Republican lawmakers from 26 different states visit the border crossing,
which is in part why some lawmakers are working to extend legislation that bridges that gap.
Thanks for joining us. You are watching Local News Live. Stay close, stay connected. The big breaking stories are best told by those who live it.
What do voters really care about? We're traveling around the country, listening to America.
I always wanted to tell stories that uplift people, but also ones that make you think. I'm Deborah Alfarone. Join me for the good side.
Gray Television's Washington News Bureau. See us on your local Gray station or follow us at Gray DC News.
Every day, stories break that get the nation talking.
These outages beginning in the early morning hours. That's why every morning we are taking a deep dive into the big stories of the day. Now to an update on the big consumer news.
Stories directly from local reporters who know the streets and the people.
That shelter-in-place order is in effect. Authentic, unfiltered, live. Stories that impact you and your family. Local News Live.
Weekday mornings at 7 a.m. Eastern.
If you're inside, make yourself known now.
Watch Investigate TV Plus on your favorite streaming device, anytime, on demand. Investigations with real solutions.
So if you had to ballpark it, how much has this cost you?
True crime documentaries.
She's got a deadly cocktail for a murder.
And consumer watchdog reports. Stories that save you money and help your family stay safe. Search Investigate TV on your device's app store or watch now on InvestigateTV.com.
People around the country say they took a job receiving and shipping packages from home, but never got paid. Consumer investigative reporter Rachel DePompa looks at what was inside these mystery boxes and what happened to one woman who got caught in the middle.
A living room packed with packing boxes going nowhere. This is what Keisha Robinson in Augusta, Georgia sees each day. The unshipped remains of a work-from-home job she did for 1 month.
Please don't do it. No matter how much they say it's a legitimate place to work for, don't fall for it.
Keisha never got paid. It started with an email from a company called Bluetex LLC. The company said it found her resume on a job board. Keisha already has a job. This was just going to be extra money.
Hello. Congratulations. Your application has been pre-approved for the position of Quality Control Inspector.
That's a company video. They had a website that's no longer working. Bluetex LLC ships you packages. You open them, take photos, make sure everything is correct, then re-ship them on to their destination. The base salary on the job offer was listed at $1,200 a month, with a bonus of $40 for every package you ship.
So I figured, okay, that seemed easy enough. And it was just because of the COVID virus. Instead of, them just sending it straight through, they just wanted to make sure the person was getting what they ordered.
Keisha did an interview and got the job. They sent official-looking documents, asked her to send a copy of her driver's license and create a PayPal account to get paid. These are the photos she took of the packages. She was shipped a 1-ounce gold bar, women's knee-high boots, a metal detector, tools, electronics, all sorts of things.
I thought it was legit. I looked it up. I seen that they had an address, based in Richmond. It came up and everything. So I was like, okay, I'll try it out.
When you go to this Richmond, Virginia address, there's an entirely different company here with blue in its name, but it has nothing to do with Bluetex LLC.
In fact, the company says its phones are ringing off the hook with people calling about Bluetex, demanding payment for work. Off camera, the folks who work here say they understand the frustration and are trying to spread the word. They are not Bluetex.
This is one of the most active scams out there right now. I mean, we've had hundreds and hundreds of people that have signed up for this easy $1,200 to $1,600 every other week paycheck just for being an intermediary shipper.
Barry Moore with the Better Business Bureau says folks have complained from across the United States. The BBB scam tracker shows victims reporting from Texas, Florida, South Carolina, and Indiana. A person in Florida wrote, "Beware of getting paid." A man in Tennessee gave the business his Social Security card, driver's license, his account and routing number to his bank for direct deposit. They even had him fill out a tax form. And as for what you are actually shipping,
you don't know whether the things you're forwarding are actually a hot merchandise or whether they're brushing, meaning they'll send things and then claim that people are writing great reviews about the products. It's all a scam.
Keisha says the company was demanding when the packages arrived, asking her to reship them immediately.
They would call, and they knew I had a daytime job. They would call me while I was working. Hey, we know you got this package. We see that it came. Can you go ahead and take the pictures and upload them? Can you go ahead and ship it out today? We need this done.
After a month of driving back and forth to UPS and the post office, payday arrived. Keisha says the company stopped answering calls and eventually blocked her.
We tried to track down Bluetex. Its website is down, and every email we've tried to send has bounced back. We've also tried calling too, but the phone numbers we were able to find are all disconnected.
All right, Rachel, what can people do if they've fallen victim to something like this?
If you figure out there's an issue or a potential scam, Lee, after you've handed over any personal information, the BBB says that you need to pull your credit report weekly and you need to change any bank account numbers that you handed over.
Any other protections?
Well, you want to notify local police and the postal inspector's office so it can investigate any potential crimes that happen through the mail. Also, in general, you can't, in this day and age, use the same password over and over for accounts. You must have a different password for each account. I know how difficult that sounds. Maybe you have a place where you write it down and you store them at your home. But whatever you do, if you've written them down everywhere, don't save them all in your phone or carry them around with you in a purse or wallet.
It's a lot, but good advice. All right, thanks, Rachel. After the break, have you heard of the dark web? It might not be what you think. We'll show you how it works and how to find out if your information is on it. The cornerstone of Investigate TV is investigative journalism. We want to get answers. We want to teach you something.
We always try to give viewers a takeaway, something they can learn from a story.
What is the solution here? Every story we air, we strive to be able to show that.
There are things that affect our homes, that affect our families, that affect our health, that we are learning every day from these stories.
Do you think people are dying?
Should this be better regulated? Should I be concerned? Do you recall when you became aware of that law?
The beauty of this show is that we have a team of reporters all across the country.
From very diverse backgrounds.
The public has a right to know.
How big of a problem is that?
Should they be revoking these certifications?
I think viewers are looking for something different, something fresh, something that feels helpful to them.
And it allows us to tell the best of the best stories and show them to you every day. You may have seen companies advertise that they can help search for your information on the dark web, but understanding exactly what the dark web is can be tricky. Carly O'Keefe with our affiliate in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, has the details.
The term dark web alone conjures up images of a spooky place where cyber criminals are lurking behind every click. But really, the darkness in dark web isn't referring to the shady goings-on, although there are some. It actually means that there's no way for anyone to shine a light on who's using it.
It does give it a negative connotation, which it's called the dark web because it's anonymous.
That's not to say that there aren't people with unsavory intentions on the dark web. There are, lots of them, because criminals really value anonymity. But so do people who have a lot to lose if their identity is found out. SIU Assistant Professor of Information Systems Technology Tom M. Bowden says the dark web has become a go-to for whistleblowers, political dissidents, and even agents of the U.S. government.
The Naval Research Labs were involved in creating the technology to where we would have the ability to surf anonymously and communicate securely over the regular internet. But if it's just the U.S. government using that, it's pretty obvious who's communicating.
So Bowden says the government handed Tor, the onion router as it's officially known, to the public. And that's when things got interesting. Because again, criminals tend to like to do things in secret, and they found a corner of cyberspace where they'd leave no fingerprints behind.
The reputation is that it is a wild west of buying illegal drugs and guns and pornography and all sorts of other bad stuff.
FBI, show your hands! In an FBI raid earlier this year, agents busted 61 dark web drug dealers and seized 51 firearms, 660 pounds of drugs, and more than $7 million in cash and cryptocurrency. That is just a small percentage of what's out there. Unfortunately, drugs aren't the only thing for sale on the dark web. Guns, hacked Netflix accounts, maybe even your credit card information, all up for sale to the highest bidder.
If it's for sale on the dark web, you're probably not going to know about it until you start getting those bills that show up because somebody's buying things with your stolen credit card number.
That's pretty much what happened to Travis Durbin.
Mine was the Chipotle in late 2017 and didn't know anything about it. A couple of weeks later, almost a month, we got a contact from the bank that said, hey, you're possibly part of a hack. We need to send you a new debit card. Your debit card is locked. So for a couple of days, we couldn't access anything. So that's when we got hit.
For Durbin, the hack resulted in a couple small fraudulent charges, no major financial loss. But as a student of cybersecurity, he was pretty irritated that he didn't see this coming.
Well, being in the IT field, it made me angry because I know what to look for, I know what to watch for, but you put your belief at the companies that you use your debit cards and credit cards at, that they're doing the things that they need to protect our information. So when it's not, it frustrates me even more knowing what they should have done.
That made Durbin want to do his own digging to find out if his information was out there for sale on the dark web, and he encourages you to do the same.
Education is the key, and we have to do the best that we can to protect ourselves, not make it 100% on the companies that we're using to protect us.
That made me curious about what personal information of mine might be out there lurking on the dark web. To find out, I ran a dark web search through the credit bureau Experian. It's free, but it doesn't cover everything.
Now my heart about stopped when I saw in bright red, compromised, referring to my email address. According to my Experian report, my email address was compromised in the MyFitnessPal hack of 2018. Luckily, as I scrolled further down, I was relieved to find out my social security number is fine. It's not on the dark web. Still, this is a good reminder that we are always under attack. Our data is worth big money to people who would do us wrong.
Hackers are going to hack, and they're going to continue to break in to companies, and they're going to continue to steal account information, and they're going to continue to put it places to sell it, because that's what they do, and they can make a lot of money doing it.
Experts tell me in addition to always checking your credit card statements, you can actually set daily limits on your credit or debit card so that if a hacker does get your number, they can't take too much of your hard-earned cash. Also, you need to protect your email account. It is very important. Hackers can do a lot of damage to your life if they get in. So be sure to change your password frequently and make it something that's tough to guess.
And it isn't just your information you should be concerned about showing up on the dark web. The Identity Theft Resource Center says it's important to make sure your kids' information is safe too. They say to pay attention to any data breaches at your kids' schools or doctor's office, and if you receive any credit card offers or collection notices in your child's name, get a credit check. Thanks for joining us here on Investigate TV. We will see you next week. Hello and welcome to Investigate TV. I'm Lee Zurich. On today's show, robocalls, odometer fraud, but first, a discarded danger. Oil wells thought to be abandoned, but in reality are ticking time bombs. Thousands of them can be found across the country, and one family in Louisiana says oil companies and the government aren't doing enough to keep people safe.
Off the court, around the rim.
14-year-old Zaylee Day was an A student on the honor roll.
She loved the library. She loved knowledge.
She started reading books at the age of 3.
She was fun. She was purposeful, direct. She knew what she wanted to do before she did it.
And today we're just gonna be hanging out.
Zaylee dreamed of becoming a lawyer, then a judge, but with big plans in the future, she still showed her innocence, acting out scenes from her favorite Shakespeare play, her stage, These Abandoned Oil Tanks.
She loved Romeo and Juliet. It was her thing, and those tanks were her towers. You know, she'd climb on top of them and act like she was being Juliet.
Those tanks became a neighborhood playground of sorts.
And you said there were kids all
the time. There were kids playing on this. I mean, there were police officers that drove right down there to that trailer when kids were playing on this.
The neighborhood thought the oil company that owned the tank and well, Urban Oil, plugged and abandoned, or P&A'd the well.
Beauregard police officers would come right through this location. Kids were playing here, and nobody ever said anything. Because everyone assumed it was a dead well. Everyone assumed there was a P&A'd well.
But it wasn't, and on February 28th of this year, Zaylee's life ended.
Okay, it blew up 200 feet, went that way, arched over that way 400 yards, flew over the two-story house back there, flew over the trailer, landed in the pasture behind it.
Zaylee was alone, playing on the tanks. We're about to show you surveillance video of the explosion from a nearby church. We want to warn you, processing what Zaylee's father just said with this video may be disturbing, but the family wants you to see what happened to their little girl.
She went 200 feet in the air and 400 yards in distance. So her body was so crushed we had to have a closed casket.
Urban Oil told us in a statement there were warning signs on the site prior to the accident, alerting the community of the potential danger, writing there was a no trespassing sign and notice to keep off the tanks. Urban Oil sent us these pictures as proof, though metadata connected to this picture shows it might have been taken at a different location. Zaylee's family disputes Urban's claims and says the landowners gave everyone permission to roam their property, adding she and the other kids weren't trespassing, the tanks had no signs, there was no fencing.
Zaylee was a very smart, law-abiding child. If there had been signs saying explosives or something warning her, she would have stayed away from it. There was nothing at all, nothing.
The well owned by Urban Oil was not plugged because it's on a special list that allows essentially abandoned wells to stay unplugged. The state calls them shut-in future utility wells, which are inactive. But instead of plugging these wells after being listed as a shut-in for 5 years, operators can pay the state a $250 annual assessment to keep them on the list. The companies are telling the state they might be of future use. Right now, the state has around 18,000 of these wells, including the one that killed Zaylee Day. Nearly half of these wells have been on this list for more than 10 years.
But we know the longer a well stays in that shut-in status, the more likely it's going to be that way forever and possibly end up with us.
There are some wells that have been shut-in wells for decades.
Yes.
I mean, it's basically an orphan well that hasn't been plugged.
That's kind of how we see it too.
The state has set up a system that essentially makes it more affordable to label a well as a shut-in instead of plugging it. The lower end of plugging a well costs about $50,000. A company could instead pay that $250 fee every year, and it would take 200 years, about 2 lifetimes, to reach that $50,000 cost.
So these can just go on and on and on.
As long as they've got an operator who's maintaining them within the rules.
What's the motivation to plug the well?
There is no motivation. There is no motivation.
Look at the map. These wells are all over the state. Here's a massive set of tank batteries in St. Mary Parish, another in Acadia Parish. We found this well in St. Charles Parish. Shut-in wells in 57 of the state's 64 parishes. And right now, the state has no existing regulations to warn residents of potential dangers.
That's ridiculous. For you to have, or myself to have a fence around a swimming pool, state law, but you don't have to have one around an explosive volatile oil field site. What happened here?
Why wasn't the state forcing companies to do that?
Previously, best sense we can come of it looking at, because I mean, this has been what it's been. One thing we've been doing over the past 5-6 years is trying to bring a lot of old policies up to date to try to make them what they should have been all along.
The state hasn't even inspected some of these shut-in wells in over a decade. Back in October of last year, instead of plugging and abandoning the well that killed Zaylee Day, Urban Oil decided to place it on this list.
I hold the oil company, and frankly, I hold the politicians too. I don't mean to be ugly, I'm just... It's like there were no guidelines. There was no boundaries.
Zaylee's father, Maxwell Smith, worked on oil fields for 30 years.
But Zaylee was only here to visit us. She was too good, and for her to go that quick and that fast.
He says the industry that put food on his table has left him unable to work. Two parents left with these horrifying images, and a teenage daughter gone too soon, too young.
I rode bulls, I raced motorcycles, done all kinds of things, but I can't seem to shake this. I haven't worked since it happened. It's ridiculous, you know, your mind just goes on you. I went through red lights, thinking about just, my mind will be in a cloud, and I'll just drive through a red light.
It's just not right. It's just so unfair. I see her big smile. She was gonna make a difference. She already did make a difference in everything.
A rule has been introduced in Louisiana to put warning signs around tank battery sites to warn of the potential dangers. It probably happens to you multiple times a day, but robocalls can be more than just an annoyance. After the break, how to avoid falling victim to possible scams. The cornerstone of Investigate TV is investigative journalism. We want to get answers. We want to teach you something.
We always try to give viewers a takeaway, something they can learn from a story.
What is the solution here? Every story we air, we strive to be able to show that.
There are things that affect our homes, that affect our families, that affect our health, that we are learning every day from these stories.
Do you think people are dying?
Should this be better regulated? Should I be concerned? Do you recall when you became aware of that law?
The beauty of this show is that we have a team of reporters all across the country.
From very diverse backgrounds.
The public has a right to know. How big of a problem is that?
Should they be revoking these certifications?
I think viewers are looking for something different, something fresh, something that feels helpful to them.
And it allows us to tell the best of the best stories and show them to you every day.
Local news, live.
From the nation's capital, I'm Deborah Alfarone.
I'm Brian Pierce.
And I'm Rashida Kaba.
I'm Graham Olkins.
And I'm Camila Rueda.
Breaking stories.
There's an absolute chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
We are following a breaking update out of Kansas City, Missouri.
Our station, WBTV, out of Charlotte, has live coverage.
3 officers have been killed.
What we do know, 6 are currently unaccounted for.
Big events.
Today is the day.
This is unbelievable.
I am just speechless.
What are voters looking at? Live outside the El Paso County Recorder's office.
Tracking some of these congressional races tonight.
Direct from local reporters.
All over social media. This used to be a bar.
Live where the story is.
And then all of a sudden the rain started going sideways.
Now we can take a look at the upper level flow.
Unmatched coverage.
For human rights.
You might have had one of these calls or recorded message claiming to be from a service department asking about your vehicle's warranty. The Federal Trade Commission says those robocalls are flooding phone lines everywhere. Sandra Jones tells us what can happen if you fall for it.
Well, it's a never-ending battle. Telemarketers are blasting out robocalls hoping you'll pick up. The Federal Trade Commission says scammers are luring people into spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a vehicle service contract. It's illegal, and here's how. It starts when you pick up a call and hear this recorded message.
We've been trying to reach you concerning your car's extended warranty.
Then the company tells you it sent several notices in the mail about your vehicle's extended warranty. It's past the factory due date, and if you don't respond, they'll close your account or tell you to press a different number for a warranty renewal. But the Federal Trade Commission says these robocalls are not from your car dealership or manufacturer, and the extended warranty they're trying to sell you is actually a service contract, costing big bucks that doesn't actually cover any problems you may have with the vehicle. You have to read the fine print.
They try to create a sense of urgency. These are usually deceptive pitches. They likely don't know anything about you and your actual car and your actual auto warranty.
James Evans is the National Do Not Call Coordinator with the Federal Trade Commission. He says since the pandemic, robocalls have generated a lot of complaints. In 2020, phone solicitations topped the list of consumer complaints, resulting in over $400 million in losses. Evans' advice to consumers: if you get a call with a pre-recorded message,
you should just hang up. Try not to press one. In fact, try not to press any number. They might tell you to push a number to be put on their do not call list, but we advise people to just hang up, because by pushing any number, you might indicate to the caller that you're a live person and they might just call you more.
Evans says call blocking may be your best defense against unwanted calls, which offers different devices for mobile, traditional landlines, or a home phone that makes calls over the internet. Now, some companies also offer what's called call labeling, which shows the words spam or scam likely on incoming calls. You can decide whether to answer it. And if you have questions about your vehicle warranty, reach out to your dealer or customer service from the car's manufacturer. Lee?
All right, Sandra, let's discuss what happens if you do end up signing up with them and it's a service contract, not a warranty. And the question that people will have, can you get out of it?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing, right? It all depends on the company. Now, you should report it to the Federal Trade Commission and the Attorney General's office in your area, and they can launch an investigation along with law enforcement. You should also contact the service contract provider to find out if you can cancel and report what happens to the FTC if you have a hard time canceling.
All right, thanks a lot, Sandra. The number of miles in that used car might be worth another look. Coming up, details on digital rollbacks.
Every day, stories break that get the nation talking.
These outages beginning in the early morning hours.
That's why every morning we are taking a deep dive into the big stories of the day. Now to an update on the big consumer news.
Stories directly from local reporters who know the streets and the people.
That shelter-in-place order is in effect. Authentic, unfiltered, live. Stories that impact you and your family. Local News Live.
Weekday mornings at 7 a.m. Eastern.
If you're inside, make yourself known now.
Watch Investigate TV Plus on your favorite streaming device, anytime, on demand. Investigations with real solutions.
So if you had to ballpark it, how much has this cost you?
True crime documentaries.
She's got a deadly cocktail for a murder.
And consumer watchdog reports. Stories that save you money and help your family stay safe. Search Investigate TV on your device's app store or watch now on InvestigateTV.com.
Ray Television's Washington News Bureau,
covering live breaking news, politics, and in-depth investigations. Serving Gray's 100-plus markets, from the White House to Capitol Hill and so much more. Covering issues that directly impact you.
In a blockbuster case that could impact the 2024 election,
64 Republican lawmakers from 26 different states visit the border crossing,
which is in part why some lawmakers are working to extend legislation that bridges that gap.
Thanks for joining us. You are watching Local News Live. Stay close, stay connected. The big breaking stories are best told by those who live it.
What do voters really care about? We're traveling around the country, listening to America.
I always wanted to tell stories that uplift people, but also ones that make you think. I'm Deborah Alfarone. Join me for The Good Side.
Gray Television's Washington News Bureau. See us on your local Gray station or follow us at Gray DC News.
Mileage is one of the first things most people look at when considering a used car. But Rachel DePapa found that number could have been messed with through a digital rollback.
There's something you need to know the next time you're in the market for a used car. Vehicle odometers are easier than ever to roll back. Blink, and you'll miss this one. Watch again. The odometer on this 2006 Chevy Silverado says 230,000 miles. And in less than 30 seconds, a technician with an inexpensive electronic device is able to erase 100,000 miles of wear, tear, and history.
Our research shows that there are now 1.6 million cars that are on the road across the country that have an odometer rollback, and that's costing consumers millions of dollars.
Chris Basso is with Carfax, a company that provides vehicle history reports.
People think, oh, you can't do that, but you can.
You can, because you're simply taking a device that hacks into the car's computer. You could take 100,000 miles off the car and artificially inflate the value of it by thousands of dollars, and you're ripping people off.
This is dangerous for drivers, isn't it?
You've got older parts than you think the car has that could break down sooner than you expect. And if that car is being driven and those parts break down, then not only are the passengers of that vehicle in possible danger, but everybody else on the road too.
Nightmare car.
That's what Erica Baez calls her BMW.
The nightmare car. Because it's black and this is just a nightmare. I wish we would have never bought it.
She got it a few months ago. It's supposed to be a fun weekend car for this Midlothian, Virginia mom.
I just got rid of a Mercedes that had a convertible, and all the kids just loved the convertible. So I figured, let's get one with less miles. The other one had about 200,000.
She purchased a 2008 BMW at a dealer in Northern Virginia, just outside of D.C., for $9,500. The mileage?
It says 136,507. But you don't believe this number? No, I don't.
Erica's had a laundry list of problems with the car.
There's a check engine light issue, there's a tire issue. At first it had a hard time just turning off and on or turning on quickly. The starter and the alternator was messed up.
And just 3 days after she got it, a tire nearly fell off.
The nightmare car. What a nightmare.
The dealer handed her a $5,000 tab to fix all the problems, and then she saw an auto check report.
Here, this notification that basically says that the odometer had issues. So there starts 44 miles. Right, 44,000. And then we're here, you see the 218.
The report shows her car is currently missing 100,000 miles.
I would have never thought that a digital odometer could actually have a rollback. What did you learn from this? Definitely make sure you get the auto check and the Carfax report. I would never buy another used car, without having both reports from both sides.
It's really scary because unless you as the buyer of a car are suspicious or are careful, you're never going to know.
Consumer attorney John Gale is helping Erica fight to make things right, and unfortunately, he's seen situations like this before.
If someone sold that vehicle with a rollback odometer to the dealer, and even if the dealer didn't know, you can go after the person up the line for treble your damages or $10,000 and all legal fees.
Rolling back an odometer is a federal crime.
We simply have to show that the person up the line or that the dealer was aware of this odometer, this mileage issue, and didn't disclose it or misrepresented it.
InvestigateTV found several cars for sale at several different dealers with potential odometer rollbacks. We sent our producer to a used car lot in Richmond, Virginia, East End Auto Sales.
I'm Colton. Good to meet you. Pleasure meeting you. How can we help you?
Wearing a pin camera.
Ford Explorer, 04. Blue one, probably? Eddie Bauer, yeah. Right behind you.
With a photojournalist rolling from across the street.
Now he's walking around the car.
To confirm a vehicle with a suspected odometer rollback is on the lot and for sale.
There's the key. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
We've blurred the face of the salesperson who has not done anything wrong. Our producer asked about a dark blue 2004 Ford Explorer Eddie Bauer edition.
And this is an 04, yeah?
Yes, sir. So really for 15 years old, it's pretty good miles. Well below average anyway.
The salesperson tells us several times the miles were guaranteed. It was a selling point.
I mean, 200,000 miles is in pretty good shape. Right, very good shape even.
Our producer took several photos, including the vehicle identification number.
And you said out the door 54? 54 out the door, yes, sir. Gotcha.
The salesperson gave our producer an auto check report that clearly shows no odometer problems on the vehicle. But there were also no odometer readings reported at all between 2005 and 2017. A Carfax report clearly shows what was missing. The Ford Explorer had 268,000 miles in 2014 and 290,000 in 2015. The miles dropped by nearly 100,000 in October of 2016, before the dealer bought it 6 months later. We reached the owner by phone. He told us, "Thank you for letting me know. We've been in business 37 years. We take this seriously, and we are glad we haven't sold the vehicle. We are going to pull it from our lot, report the mileage issue, and send it to auction."
It's critical for consumers to have their wits about them and to do some research.
Here's how you can protect yourself. Get an auto check and a Carfax report and compare them to each other. Get an independent mechanic you trust to go over the vehicle. If you think the mileage sounds too low, trust your instinct. Be skeptical. Ask questions.
The wear and tear on the inside of the car can be an indicator for odometer fraud. The steering wheel, how it's worn, the pedals, the brake and the gas, the shift knob.
You want to look at the tires. Are they worn down? The paint job. Are there more nicks and rust?
You can take a look at the exhaust. See how much rust is underneath there. That's something that the average person may be able to tell.
Carfax offers a free odometer fraud check for consumers online.
I'm completely blown away.
Erica Baez says she'll never make this mistake again.
Your due diligence is so important, especially with a used car that's no longer under warranty or anything like that. So, lesson learned.
Now, if you do suspect your mileage has been tampered with, you should contact your state's DMV. That agency will investigate.
Rachel, since you first reported about this, the problem's actually grown, right?
It has. According to the latest estimates from NHTSA, 450,000 vehicles a year are now sold with false odometer readings. It's become a trend in the wrong direction. The feds say the crime costs American car buyers more than $1 billion annually.
All right, any other ways to spot a rollback?
Yeah, I've got a quick one for you. Compare the average mileage for similar cars that you're considering buying. If the mileage is better than that car you're looking at, then you need to ask questions and you need to be skeptical.
All right, Rachel, can your landlord put up security cameras without your permission? What renters need to know after the break.
The cornerstone of Investigate TV is investigative journalism. We want to get answers. We want to teach you something.
We always try to give viewers a takeaway, something they can learn from a story.
What is the solution here? Every story we air, we strive to be able to show that.
There are things that affect our homes, that affect our families, that affect our health, that we are learning every day from these stories.
Do you think people are dying?
Should this be better regulated?
Should I be concerned? Do you recall when you became aware of that law?
The beauty of this show is that we have a team of reporters all across the country.
From very diverse backgrounds.
The public has a right to know.
How big of a problem is that?
Should they be revoking these certifications?
I think viewers are looking for something different, something fresh, something that feels helpful to them.
and it allows us to tell the best of the best stories and show them to you every day.
You might think privacy laws would prevent landlords from installing security cameras without a renter's permission, but Hannah Catlett with our affiliate in Cleveland, Ohio, found it's not that simple.
There's a camera right there.
Imagine if someone had access
There's a camera right there.
to watch you leave and come home every day.
There's a camera right there.
See your kids as they run around the yard and monitor the visitors coming by.
There's 2 cameras up front. It's 2 cameras on the side of the house. It's 2 cameras in the back of the house, and it's a camera on the garage.
That was the uncomfortable surprise Jonathan Lindsay came upon moving into this rental home on East 150th Street.
We asked about the cameras, but that was after we moved in.
And then it was too late, he says. The landlord wouldn't give him access to the security system and refused to take her cameras down so Lindsay could put his up.
I felt like this was a prison, like she wanted to be the warden over us and collect our rent too.
We noticed other cameras here and there on other homes in this East Side neighborhood, but the rental property has 5 cameras you can see from the road. So when does the recording become an invasion of privacy?
It's not okay for you to be looking at my kids on cameras.
Damari Muff is an eviction attorney who works with the Legal Aid Society in Cleveland. He couldn't speak about Lindsay's case directly, but says privacy issues can be tricky.
It's not black and white.
Yes, it's not black and white.
According to property management companies like this one that has guidelines posted on its website, placing cameras inside the home where there's an expectation of privacy is not allowed. Let's be clear though, as far as we know, in Lindsay's case, the cameras were all outside the home. And for the most part, attorneys say outdoor surveillance is legal and logical for landlords to monitor the exterior of their properties.
There's no specific law that says thou shalt not have cameras in an apartment building or a unit.
It could be considered harassment, though, according to landlord organizations, if a landlord uses a camera to track a tenant or catch them in the act of violating a lease.
So how often does the landlord check her cameras? Is someone monitoring them at all times? We can't say for sure, but within the 30 minutes we were here, someone showed up and questioned what we were doing.
States have specific laws about where landlords can place cameras, including that they must be visible and disclosed up front. Even if you live in a state where recording laws are more relaxed, experts recommend discussing the issue with your landlord and reading your lease carefully to avoid any issues. Thanks for joining us here on Investigate TV. We will see you again next week. Hello and welcome to Investigate TV. I'm Lee Zurich. On today's show, damaged wheelchairs are a growing problem on flights, and home elevators may be putting you at risk. But first, a Patriot penalty. After deployment, some service members are getting higher car insurance quotes. We found they could end up paying hundreds more a year than civilian neighbors and never know about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please.
A commercial touting one of the biggest auto insurance companies' commitment to the military.
Geico would like to take a moment to say thank you to our military service members at home and abroad for all their hard work and sacrifice.
But when it comes to writing policies for service members returning from deployment,
oh, it makes me so angry that they get away with that ad.
In many states, Geico quotes those members they pledge to support more than their civilian neighbors.
It is wrong to penalize soldiers returning from their service.
I was a little bit, I guess, lack of a better word, a little bit afraid of what was out there.
Mickey Carroll is Louisiana's state commander of the Veterans of Foreign Wars.
This needs to be fixed. It's not right.
We showed him what we uncovered, proof some military members returning from deployment are quoted higher rates.
Everything else was the same. The insurance was more, $1,797.
What logic is that?
Does it make you mad? Does it?
It infuriates me. It's an injustice. To penalize somebody for serving their country is an injustice.
We went on Geico's website to compare pricing. On the left is our non-military member. On the right, a service member returning from deployment. We entered the same address, same car, same insurance coverage. The only difference, the non-military member on the left was switching insurance companies. The one on the right had a break in insurance. We told Geico the reason was this Tennessee driver was deployed overseas in the military. You can see there was a big quote difference. In this example in Tennessee, a $274 difference. Here's another example. In North Carolina, for a 6-month policy, Geico quoted the civilian $527. The deployed soldier, $682, a $155 difference.
Geico knows precisely the reason that these soldiers were not insured. They know that the soldiers had a solid, duty-bound reason to have dropped their insurance for 18 months, and yet they still penalize them.
Experts say deployed soldiers have no reason to keep insurance on a car they aren't driving because they've been called to serve.
In most states, the insurance that you're required to buy is only to protect the people that you hit if you cause an accident. Now, if you're serving overseas, if you're 15,000 miles away from your car, you're not going to hit anybody. And there's no liability to cover.
Keep in mind, Geico specifically asked the question, did you have a lapse in coverage because you were deployed? And even when you answer yes, in many states, they quote soldiers more.
The fact that Geico asks the question, were you deployed, and then penalizes them, shame on Geico. But also, shame on the insurance commissioners and the lawmakers who let this happen.
You call it overcharging.
Oh, absolutely. There is no actuarial reason that a deployed soldier, when he or she comes back to the States, should pay more for auto insurance if they were a good driver.
We found 22 states where Geico quoted deployed soldiers more. In Arizona, for every 6 months, an additional $67. Kentucky and Nebraska, $87. In Louisiana, a $560 difference.
They're making a corporate decision to punish where they can and not where they can't. And that's the proof in the pudding, is the fact that they do it differently in different states.
In Florida, Geico actually quotes deployed service members less.
Repulsive, annoying, it is un-American.
That's because of this former Florida state senator. Nearly 15 years ago, the legislature there passed his bill.
Candidly, I am surprised that other states have not passed this legislation.
The bill protects active military service members from rate increases.
It is just adding insult to injury to say, and when you come back, we're now going to charge you more for your auto insurance.
We sent multiple emails to Geico detailing the findings in this story. They refused to respond.
It's news to me that some companies are
I rather suspect that it's something that's been overlooked.
Dave Snyder is vice president of an insurance trade association. He says deployed soldiers must be proactive.
Go back to the company, go back to the agent, say, this is really weird. I was deployed defending my country and I get a higher rate. This is a problem. Do something about it.
But there's a problem with that advice. Most soldiers will never know it's happening because it's not easy to figure out. Geico's online quote tool made it easy for us to check that company's rates. But most companies don't allow you to compare rates like this. And Geico is the only one that specifically asks if you had a break in coverage because you were deployed.
Nobody has any idea about it.
There's no way for the soldier to know, really.
No, I mean, unless every soldier who went shopping for insurance went and retested their rates and lied about whether or not they were deployed.
Doug Heller is a national expert on auto insurance. He says it's not just Geico. Other companies are doing the same thing, penalizing deployed soldiers.
They don't need to impose these penalties on soldiers. They do it because they can get away with it. And for them, those extra dollars are worth more than whatever patriotism these soldiers have shown.
The Texas Department of Insurance warns deployed service members to pay premiums on time while they're deployed because companies will charge higher rates if you have a lapse in coverage.
Why is the break in coverage? Because you're ordered to leave the country. You can't say, I can't go, my insurance is going to go up. You're ordered to leave the country, therefore you're obligated to do so.
It all makes no sense to this Vietnam veteran.
You write a check when you go into the service of Uncle Sam, and he can cash it. And where you go and what you do is up to him.
It's up to insurance companies to determine rates upon a soldier's return.
Geico, proudly supporting the military for over 75 years.
And veterans like Carol want to see companies make a commitment to deployed service members while they keep their commitment to this country.
I can't tell you how upset it makes me to penalize these young men and women who are going off to serve our country and take the risk that they do, and then come back and be penalized, additional fees added on simply because they had to leave the country. They were ordered to leave the country by the Commander-in-Chief. There should be no reason for any increase in their insurance premiums because of this.
Different companies quote rates differently depending on the state. One thing we spotted that you may want to pay attention to is the payment schedule. Some may quote by month and others by pay period, which could be every 2 weeks. And it isn't just veterans that are paying more. After the break, more examples of rate discrimination. If you're looking for more investigative reporting on demand, download our streaming apps on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV.
Local news live.
From the nation's capital, I'm Deborah Alfarone.
I'm Brian Pierce.
And I'm Rashida Kaba.
I'm Graham Olkins.
And I'm Camila Rueda.
Breaking stories.
There's an absolute chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
We are following a breaking update out of Kansas City, Missouri.
Our station, WBTV, out of Charlotte, has live coverage.
3 officers have been killed.
What we do know, 6 are currently unaccounted for.
Big events.
Today is the day.
This is unbelievable.
I am just speechless. What are voters looking at? Live outside the El Paso County Recorder's office.
Tracking some of these congressional races tonight.
Direct from local reporters.
All over social media.
This used to be a bar.
Live where the story is.
And then all of a sudden the rain started going sideways.
Now we can take a look at the upper level flow.
Unmatched coverage.
Pay for human rights!
The cornerstone of Investigate TV is investigative journalism. We want to get answers. We want to teach you something.
We always try to give viewers a takeaway, something they can learn from a story.
What is the solution here? Every story we air, we strive to be able to show that.
There are things that affect our homes, that affect our families, that affect our health, that we are learning every day from these stories.
Do you think people are dying?
Should this be better regulated?
Should I be concerned? Do you recall when you became aware of that law?
The beauty of this show is that we have a team of reporters all across the country.
From very diverse backgrounds.
The public has a right to know. How big of a problem is that?
Should they be revoking these certifications?
I think viewers are looking for something different, something fresh, something that feels helpful to them.
And it allows us to tell the best of the best stories and show them to you every day.
You would think car insurance companies focus on safety or how long you've been driving when giving you a quote, but we found many times there is more to it, and the calculation could be putting many people at an underserved disadvantage. Rachel DePompa looks at rate discrimination.
The next time you hit the road, know this: your history behind the steering wheel may not be what's driving up the cost of your insurance.
If you simply don't have a 4-year college degree and a high-paying job, you're just not eligible for the preferred company.
Eric Poe is blowing the whistle.
It's a secret that nobody in my industry wants to divulge to the common person because they understand that none of these proxies ever work in favor of people that have less incomes.
Poe's been fighting for years to level the playing field, lobbying lawmakers at the state and federal level to change how insurance companies set rates.
Don't think that the reason why your rate is just higher is because you're a bad driver or this insurance company simply charges more than other insurance companies. You could be blatantly discriminated against because the proxy likelihood of you not making a lot of money costs you 40% higher rates than the other driver who goes on the same website.
Poe's also the chief operating officer of Cure Auto Insurance, a nonprofit competitor to the big insurance companies. Cure doesn't use education or occupation to set rates.
Would someone look at you and go, well, you're in the insurance industry. Does this benefit you in some way, the devil's advocate side?
It benefits me in one way, that I'm able to compete for risks in drivers on the road without having to go after against people that don't have high-paying jobs and don't have good credit scores.
We wanted to see this practice for ourselves, so we pulled up several insurance company websites.
Let's go to geico.com and get a rate quote.
To get car insurance quotes.
Let's get a quote for Lisa Williams.
Over and over, we entered the same data. A 43-year-old woman, the same make and model vehicle.
She drives a 2012 Honda.
Same address and a clean driving history. We made her a waitress.
All right, they want to know her education. She's going to have a high school degree.
And we got a quote.
$148.19 a month.
And then we kept all of that information the same. But this time we turned that waitress into a doctor with a college degree.
Let's give her a DUI.
A few minutes later,
it went down, $129.86. The doctor with the DUI has a lower insurance quote than the waitress with a perfect driving record.
We did this multiple times on the Geico and Progressive insurance sites, and the rate quote always dropped for the DUI doctor.
Does it take a rocket scientist to understand who's being discriminated against? I don't think it does.
When we asked both Geico and Progressive about this practice, both companies referred us to the American Property Casualty Insurance Association, an industry trade group for nearly 1,000 insurance companies.
Why does your job title and your education matter in an insurance rate quote?
There's no one way by which the companies do business, and that's something that's often lost.
Dave Snyder is the association's vice president. He says insurance companies use many factors to calculate risk and your rate.
All these factors are used for one simple reason, that they help improve risk assessment so that the companies can best match price to risk. An insurance company can't use a rating factor unless we can prove to the state regulators that that relates to risk.
But some states are making changes. New York banned the use of education and occupation as factors in setting auto rates, calling it unfairly discriminatory and penalizing drivers without college degrees who work in low-wage jobs. California is currently considering similar, stiffer rules.
Is this a level of discrimination?
Oh, absolutely. It's a subtle, way of discriminating.
Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman of New Jersey has taken this issue to the federal level, introducing the PAID Act, which would prohibit the use of driver's education and occupation to calculate your rate.
Like, shouldn't the driving record matter?
That is what should matter. For working families who need to get from one job to another, or need to go pick their kids up from school in between their jobs, or need to go get their groceries, they're the ones that are suffering. They're the ones that are paying higher insurance rates than those individuals that might have a blemished record.
Dave Snyder argues a federal ban would only increase insurance rates for everyone. It remains to be seen if that's actually happened in a state like New York, which already has this ban in place. But he adds consumers have the most power here.
It is highly competitive. If a consumer feels for one reason or another that they are not getting the kind of price that they feel is good for them, they have the ability to shop around.
Not all insurance companies ask for your occupation and education level. We found that Allstate and State Farm do not.
2 weeks after our story first aired around the nation, the House Financial Services Committee brought the PAID Act up for a hearing. Well, 7 days later, COVID hit and everything shut down. But Lee, late last year, a companion bill was introduced into the Senate by Senator Cory Booker.
All right, Rachel, so we continue to wait to see what the federal government will do. In the meantime, have any more states taken action?
Well, yes, Michigan recently reformed auto insurance and eliminated the use of non-driving factors. And we can also add Hawaii and Massachusetts to that list. Both states prohibit the use of non-driving factors.
What about auto insurance companies? Have any done anything about this?
Yeah, last June, insurance regulators pledged to address racism and discrimination within the industry. The National Association of Insurance Commissioners actually created a special committee on race and insurance to look into the practices that potentially disadvantage minorities, and that includes non-driving factors that affect price. Now, Lee, this committee is still holding meetings.
All right, thanks a lot, Rachel. For those who use a wheelchair, flying can be an inconvenience or worse. After the break, a push for change as damage complaints rise.
Gray Television's Washington News Bureau, covering live breaking news, politics, and in-depth investigations, serving Gray's 100-plus markets, from the White House to Capitol Hill and so much more. Covering issues that directly impact you.
In a blockbuster case that could impact the 2024 election,
64 Republican lawmakers from 26 different states visit the border crossing,
which is in part why some lawmakers are working to extend legislation that bridges that gap.
Thanks for joining us. You are watching Local News Live. Stay close, stay connected. The big breaking stories are best told by those who live it.
What do voters really care about? We're traveling around the country, listening to America.
I always wanted to tell stories that uplift people, but also ones that make you think. I'm Deborah Alfarone. Join me for the good side.
Gray Television's Washington News Bureau. See us on your local Gray station or follow us at Gray DC News.
Every day, stories break that get the nation talking.
These outages beginning in the early morning hours.
That's why every morning we are taking a deep dive into the big stories of the day. Now to an update on the big consumer news.
Stories directly from local reporters who know the streets and the people.
A shelter-in-place order is in effect. Authentic, unfiltered, live. Stories that impact you and your family. Local News Live.
Weekday mornings at 7 a.m. Eastern.
If you're inside, make yourself known now.
Watch Investigate TV Plus on your favorite streaming device, anytime, on demand. Investigations with real solutions.
So if you had to ballpark it, how much has this cost you?
True crime documentaries.
You've got a deadly cocktail or a murder.
And consumer watchdog reports. Stories that save you money and help your family stay safe. Search Investigate TV on your device's app store or watch now on InvestigateTV.com.
Air travel can be tough to navigate for anyone, but for people with disabilities, there can be more than the usual inconvenience. Our team found complaints from people whose mobility devices were damaged or destroyed. Consumer investigative reporter Sandra Jones shows us complaints number in the thousands each year and are getting more frequent.
I want to help others because of what happened to me.
Lanny Hill's life forever changed in July of 2020.
when a work accident left him paralyzed from the waist down.
I was thinking, oh, I'm going to bounce back.
But he adapted. That December, Hill flew for the first time ever from Florida to California, an experience that will likely be his last.
I was kind of really upset and disgusted. It wasn't a very good start.
From the airport to getting onto the airplane, Hill said he received no wheelchair assistance or help from flight attendants.
And there was a few times through this whole trip that my feelings really got crushed.
To make matters worse, his custom-made wheelchair couldn't fit on board and was stored with the luggage. Hill captured these photos showing his wheelchair with dents, bent wheels, and a missing brake.
Like, I'm sitting there watching this, and it's just tearing my heart apart.
We examined more than 130,000 records of disability-related air travel complaints on U.S. flights, reported to the Department of Transportation from the past 4 years. The data shows a steady climb yearly from 2015 to 2018, reaching nearly 31,000 complaints. According to the DOT complaints, since 2018, some of the major airlines have lost or damaged more than 15,000 wheelchairs and scooters.
My wheelchair are my legs. It's not, a piece of luggage. If you break my wheelchair, you literally have broken my legs because I can't get around without it.
Senator Tammy Duckworth, a combat veteran and double amputee, fought to get a bill passed requiring the Department of Transportation to report monthly wheelchair and scooter damages on airlines. Is reporting this problem enough?
Now we're starting to have the data. So I think they should certainly report additional information on what those complaints are, but it should also just go back to you need to do the work to train your people.
Our data analysis reveals the bulk of disability-related complaints over 4 years are against the country's 4 largest airlines. American topped the list with more than 25,000 complaints, followed by Delta, then United, and Southwest Airlines. InvestigateTV contacted the 4 major airlines. A Delta spokesperson responded in this email saying, "We understand the frustrations that come when we fall short and apologize to these customers for their experience. We are proactively working to continuously improve the travel experience for our customers with disabilities." When asked about working with travelers with disabilities, the trade group Airlines for America, which represents the airline industry, told InvestigateTV, all U.S. carriers provide initial and recurrent training on accommodating passengers with disabilities for employees and contractors who work with the traveling public, which includes boarding and deplaning assistance. For Lanny Hill, flying taught him a hard lesson. He hopes airlines will learn a valuable one, too.
I think all airlines should go through a training. I am not the only person that this has happened to.
Now, the DOT did issue a $2 million fine against one of the airlines in 2016 for violating the department's rule prohibiting lengthy tarmac delays and reporting a significant number of disability complaints over wheelchair assistance and scooters.
All right, Sandra, we're talking about a lot of complaints here. Walk us through what happens when someone files one.
Well, Lee, according to the DOT, all airlines operating to, within, or from the U.S. are required to respond to every complaint it receives in writing within 30 days. And Lee, if there was a violation, the airline has to respond in writing with steps it will take to address the violation. The time frame depends on the investigation and number of complaints that's filed with the DOT.
All right, Sandra, we will be right back.
The cornerstone of Investigate TV is investigative journalism. We want to get answers. We want to teach you something.
We always try to give viewers a takeaway, something they can learn from a story.
What is the solution here? Every story we air, we strive to be able to show that.
There are things that affect our homes, that affect our families, that affect our health, that we are learning every day from these stories.
Do you think people are dying?
Should this be better regulated? Should I be concerned? Do you recall when you became aware of that law?
The beauty of this show is that we have a team of reporters all across the country.
From very diverse backgrounds.
The public has a right to know. How big of a problem is that?
Should they be revoking these certifications?
I think viewers are looking for something different, something fresh, something that feels helpful to them.
And it allows us to tell the best of the best stories and show them to you every day.
Elevators crashing into the ground with passengers inside. When it happens in private homes or vacation rentals, we often don't hear about it. Ann McAdams with our affiliate in Wilmington, North Carolina, spoke with experts who say something has to change.
Commercial elevators are inspected every year. Cherie Berry's picture posted inside gives riders some assurance the elevator is safe, even detailing when it was last inspected. Many people assume the same inspections are performed on the growing number of elevators in local beach homes, but that's not the case.
In this area, there is no enforcement for residential elevators.
Tyler Knox helps manage a company that maintains and installs elevators. There is no central tracking system for elevator accidents in private homes, so it's hard to know exactly how many accidents are happening, but Knox says they are happening, and the injuries when a 2,000-pound elevator crashes with you inside it are catastrophic.
Once the gear gives, it's just gravity. How fast can it hit the ground is really, unfortunately, the only thing stopping it.
Jonathan Brooks, a former bureau chief for the North Carolina Department of Labor who now works in the private elevator industry, says he has worked on a dozen serious home elevator accidents in the last 2 years along the Carolina coast. He was also called out after a 10-year-old girl died after being crushed by a home elevator in Carolina Beach in 2006.
There have been unfortunately, some fatalities. There are some serious incidences that happened that I've been involved with personally, and they happen more often than you would think. My personal opinion is that it's not brought to light because it's in a private residence elevator and they're not regulated.
After a new home is built in North Carolina, the owners are required to prove their elevator is installed according to code. But decades can pass after installation, and it's left up to the homeowner to maintain it. Many, unfortunately, do not. Others disable safety features with no annual safety inspection to catch these dangerous modifications. Brooks is especially troubled that elevator inspections are not required for people who are renting out their homes to vacationers.
Just be aware that it's not inspected. I wouldn't use it because I don't know if it's safe or not. If I have small kids, if I have teenage kids, they're inquisitive. They're going to want to go look. Tell them, just take the steps.
All right, thanks for joining us here on Investigate TV. We will see you once again next week. Hello and welcome to Investigate TV. I'm Lee Zurich. On today's show, supplements for fertility that are potentially harmful and how DNA testing is both changing the way we investigate crime, yet is also underregulated. But first, a different kind of testing. Athletes around the world are getting hit with positive drug tests, some of them because of contamination. Our team found drugs banned for athletes in human consumption are still in the market, and they're showing up in other pills and powders, some you might even find at your local store, making illegal contact hard to avoid.
What really is important to me is that people know that I'm not a cheater.
A 6'7", 309-pound NFL player fights back tears.
It's just hard. I'm sorry the Titans and the fans that I won't be there for 4 games.
A 3-time Pro Bowler stripped of 4 paychecks and benched for 4 games for taking a banned substance.
And I just want to make it clear to them that I didn't take anything knowingly.
In May 2019, Tennessee Titans starting offensive tackle Taylor Lewan tested positive for Osterin, a drug without FDA approval, banned for years in the NFL and other sports. Lewan says he took a supplement recommended by his nutritionist and doctor. The purpose to keep his brain healthy while continuing to play a violent sport. He says the supplement was tainted and provided lie detector test results to back up his claim. He passed.
I truly think it's really important for athletes to take supplements, not just to have big muscles and look great in a uniform, but it's important for your brain and your joints, your health for after football as well.
Investigate TV has uncovered contaminated supplements like the one taken by Lewan are easily found online, in grocery stores, gas stations, even gyms.
So we find a lot of illegal stimulants. We find some drugs in products. We found trace amounts of morphine in a pre-workout one time, which would be the worst pre-workout in the world.
Michigan-based NSF International tests and certifies supplements. NSF estimates the supplement industry tops $40 billion. Up to 75,000 supplements are in the marketplace.
And how much of those are certified?
We're probably talking 1%.
In January 2019, Clemson played the national championship game without 3 players who tested positive for a banned substance.
I don't know where it came from. I don't know how it got there.
These are elite athletes who have dedicated their entire life to training for moments of competition, for this one brief moment and chance. And it can all be thrown away at the last minute because of a failed drug test.
It's a scary situation.
Former New Orleans Saints running back Deuce McAllister kept his weight in check by taking a supplement.
You're going to get weighed. And so if you're a bigger athlete like myself, I didn't want to be giving money back to the team for being overweight.
McAllister says he got the product tested. It passed. But another batch was tainted. He failed an NFL drug test, testing positive for a specific diuretic banned because it masked steroid use.
So let's just say there were 30 pills in that bottle.
Yeah.
And so after that 30 pills were gone, I went back to the store, purchased another a bottle.
Same product.
Same product, same store. I never thought that each one that we bought, you would need to get it tested.
McAllister says the product he took was a national, possibly worldwide brand.
That's the first thing that you think about it, that you've done it the right way your whole career. You know, I never wanted to cheat the game.
You could think you're putting one thing in your body and you're not, or you're putting something else that could be dangerous.
You're putting something else that could be dangerous. They don't have to list all of the ingredients on the label, and so that's the scary part. You're thinking that it's one thing and there may be a small amount or a trace amount of another product that's listed in that product or that's not listed in that product. You take it, there's a reaction, and there could be some dire things that happen.
But these products don't just impact athletes.
There are everyday people that take the products and not knowing what they're putting into their body.
There are cases where there have been consumer deaths.
NSF can't test every batch or bottle, but its certification mark helps verify if a company and its product are credible.
Would you take a non-NSF approved supplement?
I'd think long and hard before I did. my supplements I take are approved.
Osterin is a drug being studied for muscle wasting that may improve athletic performance, but the FDA says it's dangerous and illegal in supplements and currently bans the product for human consumption.
I never heard of Osterin before.
Yet it popped up in the product taken by Lawan and those Clemson football players. An attorney representing multiple athletes told us Osterin is the biggest problem drug for contamination currently. The main issue, a facility manufacturing Osterin then turns around and manufactures another supplement, causing adulteration. We can't tell which manufacturers might be the problem, but InvestigateTV can confirm Osterin is prevalent. We easily found Osterin being sold online. The FDA has too, though even companies it warns continue to sell. In 2017, the FDA warned the company, Panther Sports Nutrition, about selling Osterin as a dietary supplement when it's really considered a drug doctors aren't even allowed to prescribe right now. But more than 2 years later, we found the company still selling that same product as a performance supplement, but it now carries the label not for human consumption, though they still sell it to consumers who take it. In fact, Panther Sports has posted its product on Instagram with hashtags like gym, shredded, and gains. And in the comments, people say they've taken the product. But for athletes who say they avoid banned drugs like Taylor Lewan, that discussion isn't one they want to have. And they want more regulations to stop contamination from putting their careers in danger.
And there are little kids out there who see 77 on the field and look up to him and want to be him, whether they know my name or not. And I want those kids to know and those people to know that I'm not a cheater.
If you'd like to look up supplements to see if they've been checked for banned substances, NSF makes it really easy. There's an app you can download on your phone called NSF for Sport. You can use it to scan barcodes of products while you're shopping in the store or search by brands and product types. Supplements advertised to increase fertility may be doing more harm than good. Next, details on the safety concerns. The cornerstone of Investigate TV is investigative journalism. We want to get answers. We want to teach you something.
We always try to give viewers a takeaway, something they can learn from a story.
What is the solution here? Every story we air, we strive to be able to show that.
There are things that affect our homes, that affect our families, that affect our health, that we are learning every day from these stories.
Do you think people are dying?
Should this be better regulated? Should I be concerned? Do you recall when you became aware of that law?
The beauty of this show is that we have a team of reporters all across the country.
From very diverse backgrounds.
The public has a right to know.
How big of a problem is that?
Should they be revoking these certifications?
I think viewers are looking for something different, something fresh, something that feels helpful to them.
And it allows us to tell the best of the best stories and show them to you every day.
Local news, live.
From the nation's capital, I'm Deborah Alfarone.
I'm Brian Pierce.
And I'm Rashida Kaba.
I'm Graham Olkins.
And I'm Camila Rueda.
Breaking stories.
There's an absolute chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
We are following a breaking update out of Kansas City, Missouri.
Our station, WBTV, out of Charlotte, has live coverage.
3 officers have been killed.
What we do know, 6 are currently unaccounted for.
Big events.
Today is the day. This is unbelievable. I am just speechless. What are voters looking at live outside the El Paso County Recorder's office?
Tracking some of these congressional races tonight.
Direct from local reporters.
All over social media.
This used to be a bar.
Live where the story is.
And then all of a sudden the rain started going sideways.
Now we can take a look at the upper level flow.
Unmatched coverage.
Pay for human rights!
Having children may be a hard subject for some people to talk about. We found companies are pushing dietary supplements to capitalize on couples trying to grow their families. But the Federal Trade Commission says it could do more harm than good. Sandra Jones explains why.
The Federal Trade Commission says some dietary supplements are not backed by solid science and could put your health at risk. The FTC and the Food and Drug Administration are teaming up to put these companies on notice. There are all types of dietary supplements on the market claiming to prevent, treat, or cure something, including infertility products. But the Federal Trade Commission says some of those companies are deceiving consumers about the product's effectiveness and implying that they meet FDA guidelines when they don't. For example, one supplement said it can boost your chance of pregnancy or improve your IVF success rate. IVF, or in vitro fertilization, is a complex series of procedures used to help with fertility and assist with the conception of a child. Turns out, the FTC says some brands are not scientifically proven and could result in serious side effects and safety concerns.
It is unlikely that they've ever been subjected to the type of testing that they would have to be subjected to in order to demonstrate that they actually work. It's not just the money here. It's preying on people's hopes.
Richard Cleland is the Assistant Director of the Division of Advertising Practices at the Federal Trade Commission. He says the FTC and the Food and Drug Administration sent out these warning letters to 5 companies, strongly urging them to remove unproven claims to treat infertility from their marketing materials. If not, the company could face legal action or fines. Cleland advises consumers to do the following before buying any supplements.
Talk to your healthcare provider, do your research, look for independent sources of information about the ingredients that are in the product. And if it sounds too good to be true, it most likely is.
Now, Cleland says if you bought dietary supplements claiming to treat infertility, you could attempt to get a refund, but it may be tough to get your money back. Make sure to file a complaint with the FTC at ftc.gov. Lee?
Sandra, since those letters have gone out, have any of the companies responded?
Well, yes, they have. Typically, the companies are given about 15 days to respond. If not, the FTC and the FDA will follow up with those companies.
And what happens after that? Could the companies face charges?
Well, Lee, a number of things could happen here. The FTC can take legal action or administrative action by getting a cease and desist order. The feds can also recover damages and restitution for customers. And the FDA can refer a complaint for an injunction to the Department of Justice for prosecution.
All right, Sandra. DNA evidence has changed the game when it comes to solving crime, including high-profile murders. Rachel DePompa takes a look at how it works.
Every day, stories break that get the nation talking.
These outages beginning in the early morning hours.
That's why every morning we are taking a deep dive into the big stories of the day. Now to an update on the big consumer news.
Stories directly from local reporters who know the streets and the people.
That shelter-in-place order is in effect. Authentic, unfiltered, live. Stories that impact you and your family. Local News Live.
Weekday mornings at 7 a.m. Eastern.
If you're inside, make yourself known now.
Watch Investigate TV Plus on your favorite streaming device, anytime, on demand. Investigations with real solutions.
So if you had to ballpark it, how much has this cost you?
True crime documentaries.
You've got a deadly cocktail for a murder.
And consumer watchdog reports. Stories that save you money and help your family stay safe. Search Investigate TV on your device's app store or watch now on InvestigateTV.com.
Gray Television's Washington News Bureau, covering live breaking news, politics, and in-depth investigations, serving Gray's 100-plus markets, from the White House to Capitol Hill and so much more, covering issues that directly impact you.
In a blockbuster case that could impact the 2024 election,
64 Republican lawmakers from 26 different states visit the border crossing,
which is in part why some lawmakers are working to extend legislation that bridges that gap.
Thanks for joining us. You are watching Local News Live. Stay close, stay connected. The big breaking stories are best told by those who live it.
What do voters really care about? We're traveling around the country, listening to America.
I always wanted to tell stories that uplift people, but also ones that make you think. I'm Deborah Alfarone. Join me for the good side.
Gray Television's Washington News Bureau. See us on your local Gray station or follow us at Gray DC News.
Criminal investigations across the country, long thought cold, are warming up thanks to DNA technology. Rachel DePompa looks at how what was once science fiction has created breakthroughs many thought would never come. We do want to warn you, some of the details of these cases might be hard to hear.
These are the faces of lives stopped suddenly, violently. And these are the people now charged with murder, alleged killers, undetected for years. Memories fade, witnesses move, suspects die, cases go cold. But in 2019, there's a new hope.
We found the needle in the haystack.
Using decades-old DNA and recreating family trees, Sacramento police tracked down a man now accused of more than 50 rapes and 13 murders. The alleged Golden State Killer, the breakthrough setting in motion the work already tested in this office building in Reston, Virginia. Inside Parabon Nanolabs is a group of scientists having an incredible impact across the country.
You certainly didn't think of this when you were going to school for genetics or computer science.
When GSK broke, it was a chance to look at how the public would respond to perpetrator cases, to offender cases.
In just the last year, Parabon's helped law enforcement across the country in making positive identifications in nearly 50 cold cases.
This couldn't have been done even 5 years ago. There just wasn't the level of DNA technology in the databases.
Cases like 8-year-old April Tinsley in Fort Wayne, Indiana. She vanished in April 1988. Her body found dumped in a ditch 3 days later, sexually assaulted and strangled. Over the years, her killer taunted police, scrawling on a barn in 1990 that he killed Tinsley and would kill again.
When you read about this, you get so angry that this happened and that they've had to wait so long for an answer.
It's one of the first big breakthroughs for Parabon. They narrowed the killer down to 2 brothers, opening the door for police to step in with old-school detective work.
You're excited about assisting. At the same time, you're dealing with family members who are having to relive these things. It's a challenging but fulfilling opportunity.
Parabon helps police find a match in 2 different ways. It pioneered DNA phenotyping. The company creates visuals of what a potential suspect could or would look like. The DNA gives them skin color, eye color, face shape, and a certified forensic artist fills in the rest. They don't know how a suspect wears their hair, but they can create a composite that might spark a memory.
It's almost like the DNA is that witness describing to the artist what it saw.
And then there's genetic genealogy, the groundbreaking way Parabon is breaking open these cases for police. They're using a public database called GEDmatch. Users who have profiles with popular sites like Ancestry or 23andMe have to download their DNA data and upload it to GEDmatch.
Parabon and police then take DNA found at crime scenes and add it to GEDmatch. Matches come back for distant relatives, 3rd or 4th cousins, and that's when the real time-consuming work begins. Genetic genealogists build family trees for each of those matches, looking for the right branch of people who share significant amounts of DNA with that unknown suspect.
It brings great hope. And it brings also a warning to any would-be serial killers or spree killers. Your deed lives forever as long as your DNA is out there.
After 41 years in law enforcement, Mike Jones is now a security consultant.
This ground that we are standing on near the Virginia Science Museum, it holds one of my great failures in law enforcement.
We're standing in what used to be a wooded area in Richmond, Virginia.
Katina Parker's body was found about halfway between here and that smokestack.
Near the place where police found the body of 17-year-old Katina Parker in 1991. She was abducted and murdered, her killer still out there. Like a lot of former detectives, one cold case, the one they couldn't figure out, haunts them.
It means something to you.
It does. It's personal. It's highly personal. It's an unsolved crime, and the killer, who we believe we have identified with a strong degree of certainty, is still out there roaming around.
He says police across the country are paying close attention to these new DNA detectives.
They're saying 2 things. Let's get the boxes out of the evidence room, and then let's find the funding for it.
Well, since our story first aired, Joseph James D'Angelo, the Golden State Killer, pleaded guilty to more than a dozen murders and was sentenced to multiple life sentences without the possibility of parole.
All right, Rachel, have there been any other cases solved?
Yeah, Parabon's now helped solve more than 155 cases since we first did this story. The company identifies on average a new suspect every week, and the oldest cold case it's helped to close was 52 years old.
I know a lot of people watching probably concerned about privacy. Are the DNA companies concerned at all about privacy, and how the service is being used?
Yeah, they are. This has sparked a national debate, and GEDmatch changed its policy to allow people to opt out of making their DNA publicly searchable, including by police. Now, the issue is not everyone responds to emails that are asking you to retroactively opt out. So new customers, though, they are uploading their DNA and they are being asked that question, do you want it publicly searchable or not?
All right, Rachel. As much as DNA testing has helped with criminal investigations, in some cases, the lack of regulation has caused more harm than good. We'll look at that after the break. The cornerstone of Investigate TV is investigative journalism. We want to get answers. We want to teach you something.
We always try to give viewers a takeaway, something they can learn from a story.
What is the solution here? Every story we air, we strive to be able to show that.
There are things that affect our homes, that affect our families, that affect our health, that we are learning every day from these stories.
Do you think people are dying?
Should this be better regulated? Should I be concerned? Do you recall when you became aware of that law?
The beauty of this show is that we have a team of reporters all across the country.
From very diverse backgrounds.
The public has a right to know. How big of a problem is that?
Should they be revoking these certifications?
I think viewers are looking for something different, something fresh, something that feels helpful to them.
And it allows us to tell the best of the best stories and show them to you every day. Paternity tests can mean a huge difference in people's lives. Knowing the identity of a biological father can mean knowing family history, rights to child support, and the ability to fill out government paperwork. We found a lack of regulation when it comes to the business of DNA paternity testing. Critics say there is a lack of accountability and recourse for families facing a vile mistake. BJ Olson never met his father.
I lived my life with only one parent and then lots of grandparents and aunts and uncles who looked after me.
His mother told him she'd been intimate with two men, but DNA paternity tests didn't link either to BJ.
And, that caused a lot of heartache between me and my mom because I always felt like she was holding something back or maybe trying to protect somebody else when, I was just a young boy wanting an answer.
All grown up, BJ submitted a saliva test to Ancestry.com and eventually discovered a relative.
And at that time is when I saw that I had a connection to a first cousin, my Aunt Joanne, and I had no idea who that was.
Aunt Joanne's half-brother, one of the two people BJ's mom claimed to be intimate with. The DNA paternity test he took years ago was flawed.
2 years after my father had taken that DNA test, that the facility that he had taken it at was shut down. And there was some conspiracies and fraud committed.
We found similar complaints across the country of people claiming DNA labs provided incorrect tests. Faulty tests have denied children a father and linked men to children they never fathered. And for those labs, there's sometimes no punishment because the industry isn't regulated by the federal government. It's cloaked in secrecy. The American Association of Blood Banks has taken on some oversight by creating standards and voluntary accreditation for DNA labs that analyze blood to determine paternity. AABB doesn't publish inspection reports, complaints, or accuracy data. It also has no oversight of companies that sell home DNA testing kits. We requested an interview about its rules and standards. The organization declined and says the only way to learn about standards for DNA labs was to look at the organization's manual. A paperback about 50 pages of information.
The rate for us and you to buy a copy, $195. And again, we still had no way to get information on specific labs. A faulty test can have a lasting impact. Some states have a time limit to prove paternity. For example, in Mississippi, once a person is 18 years old, paternity can't be established through the court system. Laws in South Dakota have prevented BJ from adding his father to legal documents.
I'm just trying to get some information changed on my birth certificate because right now my birth certificate only shows one name on it.
The statute of limitations can also keep non-biological fathers on the hook for child support.
It doesn't seem fair to me on the surface.
Washington Senator Christine Rolfes tried to change the law in her state but received pushback. The argument used against her bill, a man raises a kid for 16 years but finds out he's not the actual father.
There was an argument about making it too easy for that family to dissolve.
BJ Olson found out who his father was too late.
Well, my father, first of all, was a military man, so there's a number of different military benefits that, could possibly have qualified for throughout my life. I mean, my mom and I, we grew up with just a little bit more than nothing.
BJ Olson never got to meet his father. He died.
Hello. Well, hello, sonny boy.
Come in. Hi.
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you. Oh, wow, come in.
But BJ finally met his first paternal relative.
I know your journey. It ain't been easy.
Aunt Joanne, who helped fill in a little piece of Olson's family tree, for so long a missing branch.
Yeah, you've been able to provide me with some answers that I don't know that I would have had otherwise.
Oh, good, good.
I thank you.
He has some of his life story filled in, but his birth certificate still carries a blank space where his father's name should be because of a vile mistake long ago.
There are 38 AABB accredited labs in North America. Those we reached out to for interviews or records either did not respond or declined to comment. Mistakes by these labs can have other consequences too. People trying to immigrate into the U.S. through connections to family use DNA tests to verify their relationship. The State Department offers a link to the AABB accredited list. Thanks for joining us here on Investigate TV. We will see you back here next week.
Today on Investigate TV Plus, a random search is no laughing matter at the Atlanta airport. I'm Tisha Powell.
And I'm Lee Zurich. Our investigation uncovers black airline passengers are stopped more than the national average. We hear from 2 celebrity comedians accusing airport police of racial profiling and a cash grab. Plus, a decades-old mega drought in the Southwest creates a flood of concern.
There would be a lot more water for us, and we might be able to grow a couple of crops a year.
We examine conservation efforts and one radical solution to the Western water crisis.
Then a little girl channels her feelings about an absentee father into something that could help all kids.
I like a lot of books that have like meanings in it, and I wanted to write a book.
In-depth stories that inform and inspire. You're watching Investigate TV Plus.
Drug agents searching passengers at airport gates just moments before they board a plane. But are those searches truly random?
Our investigation uncovered logs showing most of the airline passengers searched at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport are people of color.
Investigator Brendan Keefe shares the story of 2 well-known passengers now suing the police in federal court.
At the busiest airport in the world, some passengers have an unexpected layover on the jet bridge.
I'm a random search, guys. So he says. See all these white folks? And I'm the random search.
These Clayton County narcotics officers searched actor Jean Ellie. The same thing happened to comedian Clayton English.
When they stopped me on that jet bridge, most of the other people that went past me seemed to be, white people.
English has joined forces with fellow comedian Eric Andre.
This was humiliating and dehumanizing.
Filing a federal lawsuit against Clayton County police accusing airport narcotics officers of racial profiling.
It was degrading. I had all the other passengers squeezing by me on this claustrophobic jet bridge, gawking at me like I was a perpetrator when I had done nothing wrong.
Drugs are rarely found in these jet bridge searches, according to Clayton County narcotics records we obtained. Records that also show local police have seized more than $1 million in cash from passengers. We know that more than 90% of the people they search, they don't seize anything and they don't arrest anyone.
Right. It didn't make sense to me at all. It felt like profiling because who's taking drugs to LA? Weed is legal out there, everything. Like, you're gonna get what, I don't see who's taking it out there. Maybe you should be catching somebody coming in. That might have made sense. Like, how many big dealers have you caught like this? Is this how you caught El Chapo? And then once I was actually given the statistics, I'm like, oh, okay. That's never what it was about.
The comedians cite national statistics showing 8% of air travelers are black. Their lawsuit accuses Clayton County officers of stopping black passengers at a rate 7 times that national average. In a little more than a year and a half, Clayton County officers searched more than 360 passengers on the jet bridge. That's enough to fill 2 737 jetliners. Travel statistics show 1 out of every 3 airline passengers is a person of color. But according to Clayton County logs, their officers searched passengers of color at double that rate. Black passengers overall made up the majority of those searched, 54%. And black men were by far the largest group. 46% of passengers stopped on the jet bridge.
The odds of it being random and it coming out to where all the people that you're pulling over are black people, are people of color, are some ethnic group, it's like, no, there's no way this is random.
There was a handful of black people. My flight was full. So let's say it was 200 people on the flight and maybe 5 to 10 black people on the flight period.
You didn't see any white people stopped getting on your flight?
No, absolutely not.
Film director Tabari Sturdivant was also boarding a flight to LA when he was searched by federal drug task force officers.
I travel around the world and I've seen different things. I've seen random, you put your ticket on it, boop, this is a random check all over the world. Why am I in my hometown, Atlanta, Georgia, that, you can totally humiliate me and disregard my rights?
We tracked the plainclothes task force officers through the airport. Records show the federal agents describe the searches as random, consensual encounters. But the same records detail how they selected specific passengers. Observed a man who appeared nervous. Why you? Why did they pick you?
I had a black hoodie on. I had an expensive duffel bag around my back. I had some expensive shoes on.
That's not a crime.
It's not a crime.
But designer bags show up repeatedly in the federal forfeiture filings and DEA evidence photographs. Brown Gucci bag, black Louis Vuitton backpack. They're saying Atlanta to Los Angeles is a drug trafficking route.
Right.
But it's also a route for entertainment. Black man with a designer bag flying to LA might be in the film industry, not the drug industry.
Right. The only reason I can think is because they look like they're not supposed to have something that nice. Or you think that this person shouldn't be able to afford this item based off their skin color.
This is the form DEA agents were required to fill out 20 years ago, showing the race and ethnicity of passengers they searched. But the Department of Justice Inspector General discovered the DEA has not collected any such data regarding cold consent encounters since 2003, in part because there were too many in a day. The IG report said the Department of Justice noted cold consent encounters are more often associated with racial profiling.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm not even allowed to get on a plane to go do work without being, profiled.
The Clayton County search logs are heavily redacted, but we were able to see behind those redactions, showing that the local officers received training from the DEA task force in a 3-day federal program called Operation Jetway. We got those records from attorneys for the two comedians, but when we asked for the same exact records directly from Clayton County, the section about officers getting federal training wasn't redacted, it was completely missing.
You're taking people's money based off an assumption, not facts, not evidence, and it's really not much recourse for the people. So yeah, something definitely needs to be done.
The DEA and Clayton County Police would not answer our questions about the airport seizures. As for Clayton English and Eric Andre's lawsuit, it was dismissed by a federal judge who said the men were free to walk away from the consensual searches. The two comedians have filed an appeal of the lower court ruling to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals in Atlanta. If you're approached by a drug agent at an airport gate, attorneys tell us the magic words are, "Am I free to go?" But in several cases we've reviewed, drug agents told passengers who refused to give consent that they'd get a drug dog, a warrant, or some other delay that could make them miss their flight. Our in-depth coverage continues online. You can watch Brendan's reports on asset forfeiture on InvestigateTV.com. Just search In Plain Sight on our website.
A trip to the doctor's office could come with the additional headache of paperwork. Still to come, we show you how to be your own investigator before you fill out any medical form. But first, a water crisis in the West could have far-reaching implications.
Right now, the water is off, and so we don't have any more water coming to us. And we're getting low on allocation on this farm as well.
We examine the solutions to keep reservoirs full and how one city is playing with house money thanks to their conservation efforts. You can watch Investigate TV Plus anytime, streaming online. Get the app for Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV. They're free to download.
Local news, live.
From the nation's capital, I'm Deborah Alfarone.
I'm Ryan Pierce.
And I'm Rashida Kaba.
I'm Graham Olkins.
And I'm Camila Rueda.
Breaking stories.
There's an absolute chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
We are following a breaking update out of Kansas City, Missouri.
Our station, WBTV, out of Charlotte, has live coverage. 3 officers have been killed.
What we do know, 6 are currently unaccounted for.
Big events.
Today is the day.
This is unbelievable.
I am just speechless. What are voters looking at? Live outside the El Paso County Recorder's office.
Tracking some of these congressional races tonight.
Direct from local reporters.
All over social media.
This used to be a bar.
Live where the story is.
And then all of a sudden the rain started going sideways.
Now we can take a look at the upper level flow.
Unmatched coverage.
Pay for human rights!
The cornerstone of Investigate TV is investigative journalism. We want to get answers. We want to teach you something.
We always try to give viewers a takeaway, something they can learn from a story.
What is the solution here? Every story we air, we strive to be able to show that.
There are things that affect our homes, that affect our families, that affect our health, that we are learning every day from these stories.
Do you think people are dying?
Should this be better regulated? Should I be concerned? Do you recall when you became aware of that law?
The beauty of this show is that we have a team of reporters all across the country.
From very diverse backgrounds.
The public has a right to know.
How big of a problem is that?
Should they be revoking these certifications?
I think viewers are looking for something different, something fresh, something that feels helpful to them.
And it allows us to tell the best of the best stories and show them to you every day. $35 million people across the U.S. Southwest face a critical threat experts say is getting worse: a shrinking water supply. Meteorologists say climate change means record hot summers and warmer winters with less snow.
Over the past several years, the largest reservoirs in the West have hit record low levels. This includes the Colorado River, 80% of which supports agriculture.
Reporter Jacqueline Schultz examines how the impact of Western water woes could be felt far beyond the Southwest.
In Arizona, Susan Kaywood has turned these 300 acres of desert into an oasis.
You pick and choose very carefully what you have, what you can plant.
Kaywood grows alfalfa, corn, and barley, among other things, on her desert farm. She relies on water straight from the Colorado River to keep her crops growing.
Right now, the water is off, and so we don't have any more water coming to us. And we're getting low on allocation on this farm as well.
That's because at the start of 2023, the federal government cut 21% of Arizona's share from the Colorado River after record low water levels at Lake Mead and Lake Powell, the two reservoirs that feed the river. The U.S. Drought Monitor reported water in both lakes dropped to dangerously low levels for much of 2022. These stark images raised awareness about an even bigger concern for the entire Southwest: the possibility of Deadpool threatening the water supply and power for millions of homes, rendering the mighty Hoover Dam inoperable.
When Lake Mead, the surface of Lake Mead, reaches 900 feet above sea level, that is the point at which no water can pass through Hoover Dam to meet the downstream water needs in Arizona, California, or the country of Mexico. That is considered Deadpool.
Those concerns about a Deadpool situation in the coming decades fueled the push for a radical proposal to help conserve water along the Colorado River. It involves eliminating a current mainstay of the river system, Lake Powell.
There's only room for one lake and one dam, and that should be Lake Mead and Hoover Dam.
Water is currently released from Glen Canyon Dam at Lake Powell to fill Lake Mead through the Colorado River. By draining Lake Powell, more water would naturally flow into Lake Mead, thereby decreasing the chance for Deadpool. Clark County, Nevada Commissioner Tick Seegerbloom is among those advocating for the proposal. Seegerbloom also represents the conservation group, Las Vegas Water Defenders, who, along with at least 9 other organizations, is calling for the Federal Bureau of Reclamation to consider this proposal.
Basically drain it.
That's a pretty dramatic proposal.
It is, and you kind of have to go back in history. It should never have been built.
Environmentalists have argued for years Glen Canyon Dam hurts the Grand Canyon ecosystem. The National Park Service says after the construction of the dam in 1963, Lake Powell flooded the canyons that had been carved out over time, drowning archaeology sites, plants, animals, and irreversibly altering the environment. However, opponents say draining Lake Powell would eliminate the direct water source for the whole Phoenix area.
We oppose any plan to drain Lake Powell. Having 2 very large reservoirs helps the Bureau of Reclamation stabilize the system.
Ben Burr is with the Blue Ribbon Coalition, a conservation group advocating for keeping both lakes. He says both lakes provide hundreds of millions of dollars in economic benefits and jobs for Nevada and Arizona. Thanks to a wet winter in early 2023, both lakes got some relief and saw higher water levels for the first time in years. The boost cooled off tense talks between southwestern states and the urgency for more severe cuts. The federal government eased restrictions for 2024. Kaywood wants that relief to trickle down to farmers.
There's a lot of people that don't think that farmers should be on this desert, but we can grow crops seasonally all year round. So we can provide a lot of food for the nation.
Nevada, Arizona, and California did compromise on cuts through 2026, and they did take farmers' concerns into account. It's cutting overall water use by 13%, or what 9 million households would typically use in a year. So what comes next after 2026? The feds are looking ahead. They've gotten more than 20,000 comments and hundreds of letters from government agencies, nonprofits, and other entities weighing in on different solutions. Federal leaders have not responded to our questions about the Lake Powell debate, but they are set to release a draft of plans in late 2024. In Las Vegas, I'm Jacqueline Schultz.
Southern Nevada, which includes Las Vegas, receives 90% of its water supply from the Colorado River, but they've beaten the odds by becoming a model for water conservation. The community reduced its water use by 51% between 2002 and 22, even as the population increased by more than 745,000 residents.
The Southern Nevada Water Authority says, among other things, it spends millions to get homeowners to install desert landscaping. No new golf courses have been built, and there are water limits on the existing courses. They've set restrictions on residential pools, and no new water features or fountains are allowed on the Las Vegas Strip.
Still to come, a young girl inspired to help other kids after a day she'll never forget.
Lots of cars pass by, but not my dad's.
How the hurt of an empty promise became a story of healing. But first, a trip to the doctor's office could involve mounds of paperwork. Before you fill out any form, we show you how to be your own investigator when it comes to the fine print. Our in-depth coverage continues. You can get connected to Investigate TV Plus on all social media platforms.
Gray Television's Washington News Bureau, covering live breaking news, politics, and in-depth investigations, serving Gray's 100-plus markets, from the White House to Capitol Hill and so much more, covering issues that directly impact you.
In a blockbuster case that could impact the 2024 election, 64 Republican lawmakers from 26 different states visit the border crossing,
which is in part why some lawmakers are working to extend legislation that bridges that gap.
Thanks for joining us. You are watching Local News Live. Stay close, stay connected. The big breaking stories are best told by those who live it.
What do voters really care about? We're traveling around the country, listening to America.
I always wanted to tell stories that uplift people, but also ones that make you think. I'm Deborah Alfarone. Join me for the good side.
Gray Television's Washington News Bureau. See us on your local Gray station or follow us at Gray DC News.
Every day, stories break that get the nation talking.
These outages beginning in the early morning hours.
That's why every morning we are taking a deep dive into the big stories of the day. Now to an update on the big consumer news.
Stories directly from local reporters who know the streets and the people.
A shelter-in-place order is in effect. Authentic, unfiltered, live. Stories that impact you and your family. Local News Live.
Weekday mornings at 7 a.m. Eastern.
If you're inside, make yourself known now.
Watch Investigate TV Plus on your favorite streaming device, anytime, on demand. Investigations with real solutions.
So if you had to ballpark it, how much has this cost you?
True crime documentaries.
You've got a deadly cocktail for a murder.
And consumer watchdog reports. Stories that save you money and help your family stay safe. Search Investigate TV on your device's app store or watch now on InvestigateTV.com.
For many, the amount and complexity of paperwork at the doctor's office can seem overwhelming.
But all those forms are critical to your health. Josie Sturman helps you prepare by being your own investigator.
Whether it's a regular checkup with a doc you've seen for years or you're seeing someone new, going to the doctor involves a lot of paperwork. In this Be Your Own Investigator, we've got what to look for in the fine print before you take that clipboard back to the front desk. Some forms are pretty straightforward, and you're asked for your basic information if you're a new patient or if there are any updates since your last visit. Talking about things like contact details and insurance coverage. This is also where you might see something called a consent to treatment agreement. By signing here, you're giving the medical team official permission to provide you with medical care, things like a physical exam or drawing blood. Most should note you have the right to refuse a procedure or treatment or discuss them with your doctor first. This form may also be where you give the office the okay to file claims with your insurance. And speaking of the money side of things, some doctors' offices may also ask you to sign a form saying you've looked at and fully understand their specific financial policies. Things like appointment no-show fees or what happens if your insurance won't pay. Don't be afraid to ask for more details. For example, if you agree to 24 hours notice, ask what that means if your appointment is on a Monday. Finally, one of the most important documents to pay attention to are those privacy forms. Your healthcare information is protected by a federal law known as HIPAA. It gives you primary control over where your information goes and how. These forms usually cover the release of your information in a couple of different ways. One, general sharing of your health information within the practice so they can provide you with care or deal with your insurance company. And two, more specific disclosures, like sharing your information with another doctor's office or your emergency contact. Overall, the advice here is simple. Don't sign something you haven't read. And if you get lost in the medical mumbo jumbo, just ask the office staff to explain. It's also a good idea to get a copy of all of these documents for your own records. I'm Josie Sturman with this Be Your Own Investigator.
Many medical practices maintain an online patient portal so you can access your medical records on demand. If a provider doesn't have a portal, you would need to request records by phone or mail. Once the request has been made, state laws typically require delivery within 30 to 60 days.
Up next, a little girl with a broken heart.
When you are faced with somebody that lets you down, do not let them get in your way of being great.
Is inspired to fill the cracks with strength and hope.
The cornerstone of Investigate TV is investigative journalism. We want to get answers. We want to teach you something.
We always try to give viewers a takeaway, something they can learn from a story.
What is the solution here? Every story we air, we strive to be able to show that.
There are things that affect our homes, that affect our families, that affect our health, that we are learning every day from these stories.
Do you think people are dying?
Should this be better regulated? Should I be concerned? Do you recall when you became aware of that law?
The beauty of this show is that we have a team of reporters all across the country.
From very diverse backgrounds.
The public has a right to know.
How big of a problem is that?
Should they be revoking these certifications?
I think viewers are looking for something different, something fresh, something that feels helpful to them.
And it allows us to tell the best of the best stories and show them to you every day.
Local news live.
From the nation's capital, I'm Deborah Alfarone.
I'm Brian Pierce.
And I'm Rashida Kaba.
I'm Graham Olkins.
And I'm Camila Rueda.
Breaking stories.
There's an absolute chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
We are following a breaking update out of Kansas City, Missouri.
Our station, WBTV, out of Charlotte, has live coverage.
3 officers have been killed.
What we do know, 6 are currently unaccounted for.
Big events.
Today is the day.
This is unbelievable.
I am just speechless. What are voters looking at? Live outside the El Paso County Recorder's office.
Tracking some of these congressional races tonight.
Direct from local reporters.
All over social media.
This used to be a bar.
Live where the story is.
And then all of a sudden the rain started going sideways.
Now we can take a look at the upper level flow.
Unmatched coverage.
Pay for human rights!
I love to write and read books, and I like a lot of books that have like meanings in it, and I wanted to write a book.
Zara Doherty is teaching kids and adults a life lesson about promises, pain, and perseverance. Zara wrote a book about what it's like to have an absentee father after her own dad broke her heart by breaking his promise to her.
Reporter Caroline Hecker spoke to this young writer about what she wants other kids and their parents to know about moving past someone or something that's let them down.
Let's see, the first page. Oh, here we go.
They're the things childhood memories are made of.
I wake up to the smell of breakfast and my baby brother babbling to himself.
This is Zara Doherty's story.
I run down the stairs and look out the window.
Of one day she'll never forget.
Lots of cars pass by, but not my dad's.
She waits anxiously. Her dad promised he would pick her up.
After 5 minutes has passed, tears begin to build up in my eyes.
A promise broken. It's a story many children know all too well.
When you are faced with somebody that let you down, do not let them get in your way of being great.
While Zara's experiences may not be unique, she certainly is. The disappointments of an absentee father landed her in therapy, where she learned to channel her emotions, putting pen to paper.
I love to write and read books, and I like a lot of books that have like meanings in it, and I wanted to write a book.
Not only that, but she wanted it published, available for kids everywhere to read.
Even though this is an epidemic in this country, it's also important that kids, they face disappointment all the time. They face, things that make them angry. But the real question is, what tool does that kid have to get through those type of feelings?
One of Zara's tools came in the form of a pencil, and Broken Promise was born, published in May of 2023, making Zara a children's book author.
When somebody breaks a promise, you can't control their what they do, but you can control what you do.
Broken Promise can be found on the shelves of the St. Louis Public Library, as well as Amazon.
This is something that a lot of kids are facing, but the key is getting in front of these situations so that, children can have a more productive life.
A story of both heartache,
I am kind, I love myself, and I am strong.
And resilience.
The end.
When I'm watching that story, part of me is thinking, look, life can be hard and it's great that she's learning how to deal with this, but at the same time, she's so young, having to deal with things like that. It's tough.
She is, and now she can help other people as well. And Mom said having the tools to manage your emotions is a positive takeaway.
No doubt about that.
And another positive from Zara's book, she's had 4 book signings and 5 public readings so far. And that's it for us on Investigate TV Plus. I'm Tisha Powell.
And I'm Lee Zurich. Thanks for watching. Next time on Investigate TV Plus, fire departments are a critical service, and more than half across the U.S. are all volunteer.
There's not a lot of people that I come across who are like, man, that sounds great. I would love to take time out of my day for free, go to the firehouse and do all of these things for probably no thank you, no reward, no paycheck.
An in-depth look at the volunteer firefighter shortage and its threat to your safety.
Working for free. That probably doesn't sound too appealing, but it's what thousands of firefighters across the country do every day. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Tisha Powell. Today on Investigate TV Plus, what's threatening the future of volunteer fire departments and how losing the critical service could impact you.
Every year, I think it's always kind of a dodge the bullet this year. So.
Dodging the bullet in terms of staying open or closing.
Staying open.
Plus, buying a new car can be a painful process, even worse when it starts falling apart.
I noticed my car paint was like peeling on it. It looked like somebody dropped acid or something on it, really, so I didn't know what was wrong.
What you need to know to protect your investment before you buy.
And if your child's worries get in the way of school or friends, it could be a sign of an anxiety disorder.
Most people have sort of always been anxious, and it's sort of gotten more severe over time.
We dispel common myths associated with the diagnosis. In-depth stories that inform and inspire. You're watching Investigate TV Plus.
You know firefighters as the people who run into burning buildings working to save property and lives.
What you probably don't know is most firefighters do it all for free.
Volunteer fire departments are crucial to public safety, and they are in a crisis because of a nationwide shortage of volunteers.
Reporter Kristen Crowley takes a closer look at the problem and shows us how this shortage isn't just a threat to public safety, it's a threat to your family's finances.
Casey Johnston loves what she does.
There's no way I could sit in the desk every day.
She loves it so much, she's willing to do it.
The money doesn't matter to me.
For free.
Do people assume you get paid for it? I think they assume that I get paid for it. Yeah, I think they do.
The 22-year-old works at Inner City Fire Protection District outside Kansas City, Missouri, as an EMT and volunteer firefighter. She gets paid for the EMT work, but the firefighting calls? There's no paycheck. For Casey, it's a calling.
I want to do something that'll make me happy and that doesn't feel like work every day. I want to give back to my community.
But these days, that calling is something fewer and fewer people answer.
How many firefighters do you have?
Well, we have right now probably about 15. We're half of what we need to be.
You should be at 30.
At least, yeah. So we're right here.
Jeff Jewell is the chief at Inner City Fire Protection District.
When I started here 20 years ago, you'd have 5 to 7 applications a week, people wanting to volunteer, and throughout the years it's gone down. We maybe had 5 the whole entire year this year.
In 2020, the National Fire Protection Association says there were just over 1 million career and volunteer firefighters, the lowest total since 1991. It says the decline is mainly due to a sharp drop in the estimated number of volunteer firefighters. And the shrinking number of volunteer firefighters is quickly becoming a crisis because volunteer fire departments are critical across the country. There are nearly 30,000 fire departments in the U.S. More than half of them are all volunteer. The stations that are filled with only paid firefighters make up less than 10%. Jewell says he noticed the numbers at his department were dwindling slowly over the years, but COVID sent them into a tailspin.
If you're a volunteer and you're going on these calls with EMS, your chances of getting something taken back to your family, I mean, you can't blame them. I mean, I get it. I understand.
And it never bounced back from that.
It never did, no.
Asking people to risk their lives and even give up their time for free is a tall order.
These are all city trucks.
One that Birmingham, Missouri volunteer fire chief Ed Truitt also battles to fill.
There's not a lot of people that I come across are like, man, that sounds great. I would love to take time out of my day for free, go to the firehouse and do all of these things for probably no thank you, no reward, no paycheck.
Staffing issues threaten the very existence of these departments.
Every year, I think it's always kind of a dodge the bullet this year to see what's going to happen next year.
Dodging the bullet in terms of staying open or closing.
Staying open.
What impact would happen to this community if your fire station closed?
If you take away this firehouse, then you're waiting minutes until the next truck comes in.
Public safety is the obvious concern, but there is another cost to losing volunteer firefighters, a quite literal one. Home insurance premiums can increase when fire stations aren't nearby. That's exactly what's happening in the town of Bridgeton, New Jersey.
I got, some suggestions were in the area of a 1% increase. Some were in the area of a 3% increase. Right now, any increase is kind of unacceptable.
Chief Dan Sutton's volunteer department, Seabrook Fire and Rescue, was told to shut down at the end of 2023. He says on top of struggles with hiring, the township says it can no longer afford the pricey equipment. But there's irony in that. The National Volunteer Fire Council says 65% of the firefighters in the U.S. are volunteers, saving the country nearly $47 billion a year.
If we don't figure out a way to start recruiting and keeping volunteers around the country, we're going to be in big trouble.
There are efforts underway now to try and figure it out. The federal government created funding specifically for fire department staffing. The National Volunteer Fire Council used some of that funding to start the Make Me a Firefighter campaign to raise awareness about the need for volunteer firefighters and connect people with openings in their community.
It's been an absolutely wonderful program, but the problem is we keep getting less money.
Steve Hirsch is chairman of the National Volunteer Fire Council and says while more funding could help these departments recruit and afford expensive equipment, education is the real key, because he says most people don't even know they qualify to volunteer.
We need to get better about reaching out for non-traditional folks like retired truck drivers who can drive our trucks but maybe not fight a fire. Somebody who is good at computer technology, who can help us with our computer infrastructure, people who are good at writing grants but don't necessarily want to be a firefighter.
And in the end, what they really need is something money can't buy. People who want to help their community. And he says those people are out there. Just ask Casey Johnston.
I genuinely do enjoy this. I wouldn't be mad if I had to do this the rest of my life.
For free.
Yeah.
There are volunteer firefighting opportunities all over the country. You can see what's available in your area by going to makemeafirefighter.org. Even if you're not interested in battling fires, you still may be able to help, such as assisting with the department's non-emergency tasks.
Still ahead, as more children are diagnosed with anxiety disorders, we bust a common misconception about the condition.
Most people have sort of always been anxious, and it's sort of gotten more severe over time.
And how you can spot the early signs in your child.
Plus, this man's car was under warranty, but his dealership refused to fix it.
And it's just a bad paint, and nobody wants to fix this car.
We reveal your rights when it comes to federal warranty laws and explain what you can do if you end up in a similar situation.
Our in-depth coverage continues. You can get connected to Investigate TV Plus on all social media platforms.
Every day, stories break that get the nation talking.
These outages beginning in the early morning hours.
That's why every morning we are taking a deep dive into the big stories of the day. Now to an update on the big consumer news.
Stories directly from local reporters who know the streets and the people.
A shelter-in-place order is in effect. Authentic, unfiltered, live. Stories that impact you and your family. Local News Live.
Weekday mornings at 7 a.m. Eastern.
If you're inside, make yourself known now.
Watch Investigate TV Plus on your favorite streaming device, anytime, on demand. Investigations with real solutions.
So if you had to ballpark it, how much has this cost you?
True crime documentaries.
You've got a deadly cocktail or a murder.
And consumer watchdog reports. Stories that save you money and help your family stay safe. Search Investigate TV on your device's app store or watch now on InvestigateTV.com.
Ray Television's Washington News Bureau, covering live breaking news, politics, and in-depth investigations, serving Gray's 100-plus markets. From the White House to Capitol Hill and so much more, covering issues that directly impact you.
In a blockbuster case that could impact the 2024 election,
64 Republican lawmakers from 26 different states visit the border crossing,
which is in part why some lawmakers are working to extend legislation that bridges that gap.
Thanks for joining us. You are watching Local News Live. Stay close, stay connected. The big breaking stories are best told by those who live it.
What do voters really care about? We're traveling around the country, listening to America.
I always wanted to tell stories that uplift people, but also ones that make you think. I'm Deborah Alfarone. Join me for the good side.
Gray Television's Washington News Bureau. See us on your local Gray station or follow us at Gray DC News.
According to Kelley Blue Book, in 2022, the average price of a new car reached a record high $48,000. For a price tag like that, you may want it covered by some kind of warranty. But what happens when your dealership doesn't hold up their end of the bargain?
Reporter Carice Jackman spoke with a man who took a dealership to court after finding an issue still under warranty.
Plus, she has tips on what you can do if you end up in a similar situation.
It's an issue Richard Houston didn't see coming, especially after purchasing a brand new vehicle. If you could describe the entire situation in one word, what would it be?
Be hell.
Houston bought a new car in January of 2020. Within the first 18 months, Houston says he noticed spots forming on his hood.
I noticed my car paint was like peeling on it. It looked like somebody dropped acid or something on it, really, so I didn't know what was wrong. But then I noticed it was all over the car. I had 25 miles when I bought the car. It was brand new.
Houston says he tried taking it back to the dealership to see if they could fix the paint, but says he kept getting the runaround, with employees telling Houston it wasn't their fault, but a result of outside influence.
And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. You got to have a car outside. I said, this is ridiculous.
Houston also says his car was under warranty.
The paint was put on with not enough layers when they painted the cars. It's supposed to have 3 coats, and they said the 3 coats that were put on it equals a piece of copy paper, which is nothing. And it's just a bad paint, and nobody wants to fix this car.
That's when Richard Houston got an attorney to help him fight his case.
Ultimately, she got a large cash settlement.
Consumer attorney Bob Silverman with Kimmel & Silverman is a law firm that helped secure the settlement. Silverman says in Houston's case, the Federal Warranty Act or the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act was in his favor.
What it means is they can't fix your car within a reasonable period of time or a reasonable number of days in the shop. They owe you money. They owe you a percentage or portion of your purchase price back for the difference between what they promised you and what you got.
Silverman says it's important for consumers to know their legal rights and reread your warranty from time to time, especially if you think you have an issue.
I guess the most important thing is don't be taken advantage of. Document, document, document. And if you're not getting anywhere, you think you're taken advantage of, find a credible, honest, good lawyer to talk to. Don't sign anything until you're comfortable to bring to that lawyer's services, and never go with a lawyer who's going to charge you a fee.
Houston's happy he fought back and wants people out there to know they have every right to do the same. For other consumers out there who feel like they don't have a voice, who feel like there's no end in sight for them, what would your message be to them?
You do have a voice.
We reached out to the car company for comment and have yet to hear back.
Still ahead on Investigate TV Plus, proof you can learn a lot about life through death.
I have been interested in obituaries since I was a young person, like a child.
How a woman's interest in obits exploded into a popular social media account.
Plus, raising a teen, not a one-size-fits-all scenario.
Everyone thinks that all teenagers ... and that is simply not the case.
New research examines the minds of teen girls and how ethnicity could play a role in how they process emotions.
We had unspoken cultural rules on how to display emotion.
You can watch Investigate TV Plus anytime, streaming online. Get the app for Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV. They're free to download.
Local
News. Live.
From the nation's capital, I'm Deborah Alfarone.
I'm Brian Pierce.
And I'm Rashida Kaba.
I'm Graham Olkins.
And I'm Camila Rueda.
Breaking stories.
There's an absolute chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
We are following a breaking update out of Kansas City, Missouri.
Our station, WBTV, out of Charlotte, has live coverage.
3 officers have been killed.
What we do know, 6 are currently unaccounted for.
Big events.
Today is the day.
This is unbelievable.
I am just speechless.
What are voters looking at? Live outside the El Paso County Recorder's office.
Tracking some of these congressional races tonight.
Direct from local reporters.
All over social media. This used to be a bar.
Live where the story is.
And then all of a sudden the rain started going sideways.
Now we can take a look at the upper level flow.
Unmatched coverage.
Stay for human rights!
The cornerstone of Investigate TV is investigative journalism. We want to get answers. We want to teach you something.
We always try to give viewers a takeaway, something they can learn from a story.
What is the solution here? Every story we air, we strive to be able to show that.
There are things that affect our homes, that affect our families, that affect our health, that we are learning every day from these stories.
Do you think people are dying?
Should this be better regulated? Should I be concerned? Do you recall when you became aware of that law?
The beauty of this show is that we have a team of reporters all across the country.
From very diverse backgrounds.
The public has a right to know.
How big of a problem is that?
Should they be revoking these certifications?
I think viewers are looking for something different, something fresh, something that feels helpful to them.
And it allows us to tell the best of the best stories and show them to you every day. If your child has fears and worries that disrupt school, friendships, or family time, they may be struggling with an anxiety disorder. You might have heard that a single event, such as a nightmare, can trigger anxiety, but Mayo Clinic experts say it's not that simple.
In this medical mythbuster, Viv Williams talks to a child psychologist about what's behind childhood anxiety disorders and what you can do to help.
Whether it's worrying about school, a fear of certain animals, or even just being away from their parents, identifying the triggers for a child's anxiety can be difficult. But according to Dr. Stephen Whiteside, a Mayo Clinic child psychologist, there often isn't one single event or issue that's causing these strong emotions.
Most people have sort of always been anxious, and it's sort of gotten more severe over time.
Whiteside says anxiety can run in families, and some people simply tend to be anxious.
The best example is specific phobias, where kids have one very clear specific fear, such as a fear of dogs. And it's actually pretty rare for families to come in and say they were fine, they were comfortable around dogs, and all of a sudden they had this bad experience at a friend's house, and all of a sudden they've been afraid of dogs. More often, families will say, well, we never really had a dog, they've always been afraid of dogs, and when that neighbor's dog moved in, just all of a sudden it became problematic.
Whiteside says while one experience won't usually cause an anxiety disorder, ongoing issues can. An article in the journal American Family Physician notes repeated bullying, exposure to violence, low socioeconomic status, and trauma increase a child's risk of developing an anxiety disorder. Whiteside says there are many potential symptoms, including fear, anger, irritability, refusing to participate in some activities, a racing heart, sleep problems, fatigue, headaches, and stomach aches. So what should you do if your child has these symptoms? Whiteside says one potential solution is exposure therapy.
One of the main problems that maintains anxiety and worsens it over time is avoiding situations that make you nervous. And so in our treatment, and in the most common, most effective treatment for anxiety disorders, we help kids gradually face their fears and learn through their own experience that what they were afraid of was not as bad as they thought it was going to be.
He says the process involves slowly, gently, and safely exposing kids to their fears. Take social anxiety, for example.
Kids are very nervous meeting new kids their age. We wouldn't necessarily take them to the park and then push them to go up to some random kids they don't know and start a conversation.
Instead, he suggests starting small by encouraging your child to call a relative or talk to a sales clerk at the mall.
Taking small steps, things that you can help your child practice in the moment.
With this Medical Mythbuster, I'm Viv Williams.
Dr. Whiteside says if anxiety symptoms are getting in the way of regular activities or are worrisome, seek professional help. There's also new information when it comes to teens and mental health. A study released in 2023 examined teen girls of color and how they process emotions.
Although we are all big picture Americans, we each have an ethnicity and a cultural contribution to how we think and feel about our emotions, and that is simply not discussed.
Dr. Jennifer Kitt and her team of researchers interviewed Black, Asian, Latina, and mixed race girls from ages 14 to 20 in the U.S. They found teens process emotions based on how their parents teach them, and a lot of that is influenced by culture.
We had unspoken cultural rules on how to display emotions, how to feel emotions, how to say emotions. Asian families, the same thing. Hispanic families, the same thing.
For everyone, Dr. Kitt explains experiences can influence emotions and actions. However, teens can experience a wider variety of feelings even when facing similar scenarios. They can learn how to process those emotions by looking to adults.
We are the first teachers and role models for these young women. We've got to get it together.
According to CDC data, nearly 3 in 5 teen girls felt persistently sad or hopeless in 2021, double that of boys. We reveal how biology could play a role and how you, the parent, can help. To watch our full story, head to InvestigateTV Plus and search Teen Mental Health.
Still ahead, life lessons from beyond the grave.
Judy had strong beliefs in which she never wavered. You can just tell that Donna was a total it girl.
How this woman's obsession with obituaries led to a unique creation.
You can watch InvestigateTV Plus anytime online. Just subscribe to our YouTube channel at InvestigateTV. You can catch stories and full episodes.
Gray Television's Washington News Bureau, covering live breaking news, politics, and in-depth investigations, serving Gray's 100-plus markets, from the White House to Capitol Hill and so much more, covering issues that directly impact you.
In a blockbuster case that could impact the 2024 election,
64 Republican lawmakers from 26 different states visit the border crossing,
which is in part why some lawmakers are working to extend legislation that bridges that gap.
Thanks for joining us. You are watching Local News Live. Stay close, stay connected. The big breaking stories are best told by those who live it.
What do voters really care about? We're traveling around the country, listening to America.
I always wanted to tell stories that uplift people, but also ones that make you think. I'm Deborah Alfarone. Join me for the good side.
Gray Television's Washington News Bureau. See us on your local Gray station or follow us at Gray DC News.
Every day, stories break that get the nation talking.
These outages beginning in the early morning hours.
That's why every morning we are taking a deep dive into the big stories of the day. Now to an update on the big consumer news.
Stories directly from local reporters who know the streets and the people.
That shelter-in-place order is in effect. Authentic, unfiltered, live. Stories that impact you and your family. Local News Live.
Weekday mornings at 7 a.m. Eastern.
If you're inside, make yourself known now.
Watch Investigate TV Plus on your favorite streaming device, anytime, on demand. Investigations with real solutions.
So if you had to ballpark it, how much has this cost you?
True crime documentaries.
You've got a deadly cocktail for a murder.
And consumer watchdog reports. Stories that save you money and help your family stay safe. Search Investigate TV on your device's app store or watch now on InvestigateTV.com.
According to the online etymology dictionary, the word obituary comes from the Latin word obitus, or to meet death.
Sharing obituaries may sound morbid, but a woman in St. Paul, Minnesota says the dead can be downright funny.
Reporter Deborah Alfarone shows us how she's compiling obits and life lessons on a popular social media page called Tips from Dead People.
On Thursday, February 4th, Travis Sistrunk made his last inappropriate comment and exited his rickety old body, having lived
twice as long as we expected, and way longer than he deserved. Judy had strong beliefs in which she never wavered. You can just tell that Donna was a total it girl.
Simply put, Mary McGreevy loves obits.
I have been interested in obituaries since I was a young person, like a child.
A strange hobby sparked when her mom wrote them for their local paper. Mary collected them for years. When her daughters encouraged her to take them to TikTok, tips from dead people took off.
It completely blows my mind. Some of the comments move me to tears. They say something like, "This is exactly what I needed to hear today." I am floored by the fact that there are that many people out there like me who enjoy a good story.
Like the story of Travis.
Travis loved to make people laugh, mostly himself.
Or the story of Judy.
She left behind a hell of a lot of stuff to her daughters who have no idea what to do with it.
Mary says she learns a lot about life through death. And seriously, you may want to take notes.
The little things in life are truly the big thing. So what I mean by that, you think that your job, your house, your legacy, you think that's the finish line. And those are the big things in life, that's a big fat nope. The things that are important are the little things, the vacations, the romance, the cooking fails, the pranks, the sibling stories. Do you have the relationships that matter? Do you have the memories, the experiences that matter?
I told you. Tip 2.
Try all the things that you've wanted to try. If you want to try gardening and you're 75 years old, try it. It doesn't matter. The idea that you have to be good at what you try, the joy in the trying, the being a lifelong curious person, that's the goal.
Tip 3 resonated with me, and it may for you too.
If you think there's a defining event in your life, if you think that the addiction, the divorce, the bankruptcy, anything like that, if you think those catastrophes define you, worry not. In almost every obituary that I read, there's that chapter, but there's many more chapters.
McGreevy says everyone deserves to be remembered in a public way, but placing an obituary in a newspaper can be expensive. That's why she co-founded Epilogue, a website where you can post stories, pictures, and videos online for free. It makes money from ads, not submissions, so everyone can remember and honor their loved ones.
That was such a great story with such good tips on life. And a friend once told me, write your obituary and live your life backwards so you could accomplish the things that you want to accomplish.
That's a great advice. Did you take the advice? Did you write yours yet?
I'm thinking about what I want to say.
Okay, you have to think about what the rest you want to accomplish, right?
Yes.
All right, very nice. All right, that's it for us here on Investigate TV Plus. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Tisha Powell. Thanks for watching. Next time on Investigate TV Plus, a mother who lost her son in a car wreck.
My son would be 28.
Says a simple piece of tech could have saved his life.
I just feel like, dang, if we would have just had that,
This is beyond urgent.
Other countries are already requiring this?
The European Union has required belt reminders for all passengers since 2019.
We investigate the effort to install seatbelt reminders in cars across the country. Today on Investigate TV Plus, a mother says a simple piece of tech in her car could have saved her son's life.
I just feel like, dang, if we would have just had that, you know?
We reveal the fight to make this safety system mandatory in all vehicles.
This is beyond urgent.
Plus, surprise symptoms.
I was having pain in my lower back, my upper back. I was having bad migraines.
Reveal a bigger issue. How this student school nurse was able to diagnose a serious disease, and an in-depth look at a potential healthcare solution for parents.
Then, this couple's journey to parenthood wasn't an easy one.
All anatomy scans and everything looked great. It wasn't until after he was born that they heard a murmur.
How the birth of their baby led to their true calling in life.
So grateful for what our family looks like. And it looks wildly different than we would have ever planned, but it's better.
In-depth stories that inform and inspire. You're watching Investigate TV Plus.
A big change to new cars across the U.S. could help keep your children safe. I'm T. Chappelle.
And I'm Lee Zurich, though some safety advocates say it's long overdue. You've probably heard that sound or something similar when you get behind the wheel of a car. It's a seatbelt warning system and a reminder to buckle up. Those reminders have been required in driver's seats for decades, but there's no such mandate when it comes to the back seat, where children often end up sitting and where seatbelt use is said to reduce the risk of fatality for rear seat occupants by 55% in cars, 74% in light trucks and vans. Now the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is eyeing a potentially life-saving update.
Reporter Heather Graff explains the proposal to expand seatbelt warning systems in cars.
Plus, a mother shares her nightmare as a reminder of what's at stake.
Very boisterous, very outdoorsy, very outgoing.
There are simply not enough words for Rosalind Darby to describe him.
You know, he was kind of a jewel to me.
Because her son Calvin was one of a kind. And their time together was far too short.
I mean, it's hard.
It was August of 2007, a vacation and a road trip for their family of 6.
I drove maybe half a block and I said, Calvin, do you have your seatbelt on? And he said, I don't think he said anything. I think he just sighed, and we pulled over and heard the click. And so we went on our way.
What Rosalind didn't know is that Calvin later unbuckled as they drove through rural Idaho. And this image of their mangled SUV shows you what happened next.
I knew that he had passed away when we crashed.
12-year-old Calvin was the only fatality and the only one not wearing a seatbelt.
A 3- and a 5-year-old in the rear, and then a 12-year-old and 11-month-old in the middle, and 2 adults in the front, and everybody that was buckled lived. The seatbelts saved their lives.
And still,
my son would be 28.
All these years later, Rosalind can't help but think this sound might have kept Calvin safe.
I just feel like, dang, if we would have just had that, you know?
She's talking about seatbelt warning systems featuring visual and audible alerts that activate when a belt is not fastened. The reminders currently required only in driver's seats under federal motor vehicle safety standards that date back to the 1970s.
Seatbelts are really the first line of defense when you're in a crash to protect you, but not enough people are buckling up.
Kathy Chase leads the group known as Advocates for Highway and Auto Safety that's long been pushing to expand seatbelt warning systems to all seating positions, citing statistics that show the impact of belt use. For instance, in 2021, about 26,000 passenger vehicle occupants lost their lives on U.S. roads. And among those crashes in which restraint status is known, 57% of rear seat fatalities were unbelted.
You know, we have in our cars, we have reminders if the trunk is open or the skylight is still open or your gas tank is running low. But there's no reminder for the passenger side or anyone in the rear seats to buckle up. This is beyond urgent.
Other countries are already requiring this?
The European Union has required belt reminders for all passengers since 2019.
What does that say to you?
We're behind. We could be saving lives that we're not.
In fact, Congress, way back in 2012, directed the U.S. Department of Transportation's National Highway Traffic Safety Administration to begin what's known as a rulemaking to mandate those seatbelt reminders for back seats. But more than a decade later, it still hasn't happened.
It's dependent upon the leadership of the U.S. Department of Transportation, which of course changes from administration to administration.
And while many automakers have voluntarily added seatbelt warning systems for the front passenger seat, data from NHTSA indicates just 47% of new cars feature those same reminders in the back. This, as the National Occupant Protection Use Survey shows, seatbelt use for years has been lower in the rear seat than the front.
It's beyond frustrating. It's tragic.
Then, in August of 2023, a significant step forward. NHTSA finally announced a proposed rule that would require automobile manufacturers to equip vehicles with seatbelt use warning systems for the right front passenger and rear seats as well. The agency estimates the changes would prevent approximately 300 non-fatal injuries and over 100 fatalities every year. But NHTSA is still reviewing public comments, and it's not yet a done deal.
I guess I would just say, what are you waiting on? Is Calvin not worth it? Is the next child not worth it?
We took Rosalind's question to Capitol Hill, where Representative Jan Schakowsky of Illinois chairs the U.S. House Subcommittee on Consumer Protection.
We have to do better, and NHTSA, this agency, has to speed up.
What else can Congress do to ensure that this time NHTSA actually gets it done?
This legislation that we have passed is, in general, bipartisan, Republicans and Democrats. So what we need to do, we set a fire under NHTSA. You've got to get to work and just get it done and get it implemented.
NHTSA, meanwhile, declined our request for an interview, and when asked about the timeline for implementation, referred us back to its 232-page proposal that suggests the expanded seatbelt warning requirements be rolled out in stages, with automakers expected to comply about 1 to 2 years after publication of the final rule.
Gosh, it could really be easily fixed. It really could be.
From Rosalind's perspective, it's a simple solution to help protect our most precious cargo.
A lot of times kids lay down and they get comfortable, or they unbuckle and they reach over and they get their blanket, or they get their binky, Nintendo Switch, whatever it is.
It happened to her son.
Just imagine, you know?
And it could happen to anyone.
Losing a child, it just devastates an entire family.
Reporter Heather Graff joins us now. Heather, do we know how much money it would take to implement these expanded seatbelt warning systems in new cars?
Lee, NHTSA's proposal does include a cost estimate, and to comply with the new rear seatbelt warning requirements, it says automakers would spend about $166 million. Now, that might sound like a lot, but get this, it comes out to less than $20 per vehicle. And in the passenger seat, where the technology is already common, the cost assessment is just $2.13 per vehicle.
And what about automakers? What are they saying about all of this?
Well, we reached out to the Alliance for Automotive Innovation that represents automakers, who told us safety is the auto industry's top priority. The group submitted public comment on seatbelt warning systems to NHTSA and wrote that in general, auto innovators support NHTSA's efforts to expand them. But the Alliance did express concerns that some of the proposed requirements differ from those currently in place in Europe. And they asked NHTSA to make changes so that U.S. regulations better align with global markets.
Still ahead on Investigate TV Plus, they're the same tools we use in our investigations, and now we want to share them with you. We trust them with some of our biggest life decisions, but do you really know your doctor? How you can be your own investigator to check on your doctor before your next checkup.
Plus, no more doctor's notes.
We're able to see kids for well visits, sports physicals, work permits, all those teenage things, as well as sick visits.
How some school campuses across the U.S. are becoming one-stop shops for student health. The cornerstone of Investigate TV is investigative journalism. We want to get answers. We want to teach you something.
We always try to give viewers a takeaway, something they can learn from a story.
What is the solution here? Every story we air, we strive to be able to show that.
There are things that affect our homes, that affect our families, that affect our health, that we are learning every day from these stories.
Do you think people are dying?
Should this be better regulated? Should I be concerned? Do you recall when you became aware of that law?
The beauty of this show is that we have a team of reporters all across the country.
From very diverse backgrounds.
The public has a right to know.
How big of a problem is that?
Should they be revoking these certifications?
I think viewers are looking for something different, something fresh, something that feels helpful to them.
And it allows us to tell the best of the best stories and show them to you every day.
Local news live.
From the nation's capital, I'm Deborah Alcerone.
I'm Brian Pierce.
And I'm Rashida Kaba.
I'm Graham Olkins.
And I'm Camila Rueda.
Breaking stories.
There's an absolute chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
We are following a breaking update out of Kansas City, Missouri.
Our station, WBTV, out of Charlotte, has live coverage.
3 officers have been killed.
What we do know, 6 are currently unaccounted for.
Big events.
Today is the day.
This is unbelievable.
I am just speechless. What are voters looking at live outside the El Paso County Recorder's office?
Tracking some of these congressional races tonight.
Direct from local reporters.
All over social media. This used to be a bar.
Live where the story is.
And then all of a sudden the rain started going sideways.
Now we can take a look at the upper level flow.
Unmatched coverage.
Pay for human rights!
At this school in Cleveland Heights, Ohio, this isn't your ordinary nurse's office.
Is that first base in the district that really has this full quote-unquote doctor's office right in the school building. But the concept of school-based health centers have been around for a while.
According to a study from the Office of the U.S. Surgeon General, 1 in 10 children in public schools is medically underserved because of a lack of health insurance or access to health care, helping kids get ahead of the curve when it comes to wellness.
I think this is going to be the new healthcare system nationwide after a point because it's really providing access to kids who wouldn't otherwise have it.